only 6 weeks in, and it's already been a tough season for quarterbacks. Football's glamour boys have hardly been treated with kid gloves. The word has been sack. Quarterbacks ending up on their back. Last week, 2 more quarterbacks were knocked out of action. The Bengals' Jason Buck ended Bubby Brister's luck. While the Colts' John Hand delivered the knockout punch to Jim Kelly, sending him to the turf and separating his shoulder. Not even Boomer Esiason, playing in front of the biggest line in the NFL, has been immune. There is only one quarterback that has avoided the sack. Dan Marino has not gone down in 17 games. The last time, September 25th, 1988 against Indianapolis. Today, Marino will try to stay on his feet and keep the Dolphins afloat against the Bengals.
NBC Sports presents the National Football League. Today, it's the Miami Dolphins versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
Welcome to the jungle in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we are expecting the natives to be restless for this one between the Bengals and the Miami Dolphins. Already 80 degrees down on the field. It was warm yesterday, should get a lot hotter before this one's over this afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Cincinnati. Fred Rogan along with Lyle Alzado. Now, Dan Marino has not been sacked for an NFL record 17 consecutive ball games. How did the Bengals get to Dan Marino this afternoon?
Well, what's important to have to remember is that the Miami Dolphins already have an established passing game that's very successful. They protect Dan Marino with everything they've got. Their receivers run quick patterns. What's important to note is that the Miami Dolphins do not have a running game, period. What has to happen today, Sammy Smith's the guy. If he can establish a running game with himself and the Dolphin offense, they have a shot today.
The last time the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Miami Dolphins, 1977. Boomer Esiason and crew have their work cut out for them this afternoon.
Absolutely. What has to happen with Cincinnati is that they have to remember that the Miami Dolphins lead the NFL in sacks with 20. Now, it's early in the year yet. Boomer has to establish the running game. James Brooks and Eric Ball are the 2 people that have to do that. Boomer already has a fine passing game. And here we go.
Don Shula brings his Dolphins into the ball game. Shula 7-1 against the Cincinnati Bengals, coming off a big win last week over Cleveland. On the other side, Sam White's trying to break through against the Miami Dolphins, although the Bengals have won 4 straight here at the Jungle. 5 degrees, but it was a sweltering day yesterday.
You know, Freddie, it's important to note that weather here, you know, people say would affect the Miami Dolphins, but people forget the Miami Dolphins play in humidity also and practice in humidity, so the weather is basically the same. So it will have just as much effect on the Cincinnati Bengals as it will the Miami Dolphins.
The rookie out of Indiana, Pete Stoyanovich, tees it up for the Dolphins, and back deep for the Cincinnati Bengals, Stanford Jennings and Ira Hillary. We're set to go from sold-out Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Short kick. Stanford Jennings is over the 20-yard line where the Bengals will start 1st and 10. Here's how the Bengals offensive line will start, and they are a banged-up group. Munoz is making his first career start, and the center Kozerski is also banged up.
Anthony Munoz is a surprise today. They said he had a bad knee.
Boomer Esiason gets the call at quarterback, still hobbled a tad bit by that ankle, but feeling much better. Bengals 1st and 10 from the 22. Watch James Brooks over the middle here. Esiason instead goes out to Eddie Brown, and it's 1st down yardage for the Bengals at the 32-yard line. The Bengals going with the attack offense, no huddle. Here's the way the Dolphins line up on defense. Turner, Sauché, Cross, E.J. Jr., Aarons, Krause, and Green. Langford, Judson, Williams, and Oliver start deep. Now, they called it a pickup of 9, so it's 2nd and 1 from the 32. Eddie Brown in motion. It's the rookie out of UCLA, Eric Ball, to the 40-yard line, and a Cincinnati 1st down. Last week, Ball got off to a slow start, fumbling the first time he touched the ball. He was determined not to make the same mistake this week.
Here's Eric Ball taking a handoff from Boomer, a cutback play. Offensive line doing a good job shoving the offensive defensive line down the line of scrimmage and making a cutback through. Nice yardage.
Pickup of 8. Bengals on the move. 1st and 10. We are just underway from Cincinnati. 14 minutes to play in the first quarter.
Giant offensive line, Fred.
Biggest in the league.
One of the best players to play football, Anthony Munoz. Best tackles in football.
James Brooks. Nice move. And Brooks, with a fine move, is into Miami Dolphin territory. Barry Krause forced him out of bounds. James Brooks is so elusive. A stutter step inside and he broke it.
Here's James Brooks taking a handoff, reverse play from Boomer Esiason, taking it outside. And this is what I mean about establishing the running game for the Cincinnati Bengals. James Brooks, what a dancer, what a player. Great move, great yardage, great play by Cincinnati. Look at him. Head fake, shoulders, juking and faking, moving it, sliding upfield. Woo! My man can do it.
Don't get too excited. We just started.
Okay, come on. What a game. Brutal.
The pass is complete to McGee. Tim McGee, the first-round pick at 86 out of Tennessee, hauling the shot in from Boomer Esiason, and Boomer is 2 for 2. McGee, the Bengals' leading receiver so far this season. Took him a few years to get comfortable in the NFL, but now since he has acclimated himself, he's making the big grabs. Give him a pickup of 9, 2nd and 1 from the 41. Esiason checking off at the line. Brooks picks up the first down. Again, run out of bounds by the right outside linebacker, Hugh Green. James Brooks can do it all, Al.
Certainly can. If you notice James Brooks, they're trying to give him the ball to get him outside and upfield. They may feel that the Miami defense has a weak link at the outside, then they're trying to bring the ball outside instead of bringing it up inside the middle. I remember trying to catch James Brooks once.
What was it like?
It was in my dream. I never did it.
From the 35, Bengals are moving 1st and 10. They split the tight end Rodney Holman out wide to the right side. Eric Caddis is in motion. But the handoff goes to the veteran Stanford Jennings, trying his luck over the right side without a great deal of success. Don Shula has been impressed with the play of his Dolphin defensive unit, at least last week. But you have to wonder, who are we going to see, Jekyll or Hyde? Which Dolphin defense will be here this afternoon?
I think you have to remember something, Fred. To be inconsistent like that means they're beginning to adjust to the defensive philosophy that Shula has installed now this year. I believe if they come here and they play like they did last week, they'll have a good game.
Bengals with 2 tight ends in the game, clock running, 13 minutes to play in the first quarter, just underway from Riverfront. Brooks. Well, the Bengals are doing exactly what Sam Weich told us they would do when we spoke with him yesterday. Keep the ball on the ground and try to eat up the clock. Weich's philosophy was that when Miami played Houston, the Oilers kept the ball and didn't give it to Marino. So if they can just control the ball and keep it out of Dan Marino's hands, they believe they can beat the Dolphins.
Well, I think that Cincinnati is going to have their hands full. Miami's defense is playing very well. Hugh Green is a leader back there, and he's got them going so far. Early in the game, but still, he's yelling and screaming down in the field.
3rd and 4. James Brooks, and Brooks is out of bounds. They spotted at the 6-yard line. Louis Oliver had to force him out.
Here's James Brooks coming out of the backfield. Now, this is what I mean about having a safety valve. It's a short pattern. Brooks grabs the ball, gets it upfield, and Oliver needs to have stayed on him a little tighter. You can't let a guy like Brooks out of the backfield, especially if he's already carried the ball, touched the ball 4 times in a game. You know they're going to establish him as their running game, as their passing game. Oliver should have stayed on him a little bit tighter. Maybe knock him down a little bit. Bruise him up. Bruise him up.
First and goal from the 6-yard line. Jennings to the 2.5 before he stopped. Brian Soche and Dave Aarons combining on the hit, and you see Sam Weish keep moving.
Boomer hands off. Boomer looks like he wanted to carry the ball inside the middle of the line. You know, most quarterbacks don't do that, but Boomer, he might.
If anybody can carry the ball, it's Boomer Esiason. 6'5", 215 pounds. It sounds like he's big enough to play tight end.
He could probably do that too if he wanted.
Second and goal from the 3.
34!
Brooks. Not this time. Nice defensive play by Jeff Cross, who has been the most pleasant surprise for the Dolphins defensive unit. Last year, he wasn't projected to even come back and start. But
And to Brooks, Miami's defense has gotten smart.
all right, they went right to the attack there, and there are markers on the play. The Bengals went right to the attack offense. And markers are on the 3-yard line. Referee Tom Dooley will sort it out for us.
It looks as though, Fred, that Miami's defense is becoming a little smarter as James Brooks tries to cut back. Their defense is not overplaying again.
Here's Tom Dooley.
Disregard the flag. There is no foul. It's 4th down.
Well, Sam Weish is upset.
This is what the game of football is all about. If you're going to smack somebody, you smack them back. That's what happens.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't see why they threw the flag.
Shouldn't have been a flag. Let them play football.
Well, that's what the officials say, and they're still talking it over. Boomer Esiason is really hot, talking with the umpire. Now, they tried to catch the Dolphins in the attack, the no huddle, and apparently shot, but they picked up the flags.
Very clean today. Don't you think? I like those stripes.
Offsides. Offense.
And now he's called the Bengals for offside.
Now, this is a mistake Cincinnati can't make. Inside the 5-yard line, they got to score.
Well, Dooley signaled offense, but did he mean defense? And now Don Shula's upset. And he has a valid point. Because the Bengals complain, they re-huddle, and then they penalize the Dolphins.
Offsides. Defense. 3rd down.
You're not going to make any friends like this.
No, the referees and the guys in the striped shirts aren't very well liked anyway. Do you like them, Fred?
They're fine individuals. Well, the clock continues to run. Just under 11 minutes to play in the first quarter. The Bengals took the opening kickoff and have controlled the football. They moved it all the way down to the 2-yard line and now face 3rd and goal from the 2. Eddie Brown in motion. Incomplete in the end zone. There could have been a flag there. Paul Langford put a lick on Eddie Brown. Langford's excited. You can appreciate the Bengals are upset.
Certainly is a good play. Boomer throws a short, quick out pattern. Go to the end zone. Tremendous defensive play.
You don't think he got to him too soon?
No, absolutely not. This is tackle football. Unless they have flags on their sides, do they?
I think so. Jim Breach. For a 20-yard field goal try. 2 for 2 this season, now making 3 for 3. Jim Breach gets the Bengals on the board, 3-0. Bengals chewed up the first 4 minutes and 34 seconds of the ball game, moved 12 plays, 75 yards, and Jim Breach capped it off with a 20-yard field goal. Cincinnati jumping out to a 3-0 lead. The officials still trying to explain to Sam Wyche what happened down there in the end zone.
Well, I think it's important to note that let's get on with the game, huh? Let's just get on with it.
What's in the past is in the past?
It's in the past. Let's go.
Now, Lee Johnson will get us going.
You know, the Cincinnati is running those short patterns. Keep Miami.
Bengals, nice boot. And that's Mark Logan, the former Bengal, down to get in the end zone. There was a marker dropped at the 30-yard line. Here's the Dolphins offensive line, the rookie Ulanate at center, and he will have his hands full with Tim Crumry. We'll be keeping an eye on that matchup for you. Of course, Dan Marino, the quarterback, Sammy Smith, the rookie. They hope to go to him more and establish that running game this afternoon. Duper and Clayton, the wideouts. Farrell Edmonds, the tight end. When they go to their 4 wide receiver format, look for Mr. All-Purpose Jim Jensen in the game. Fred Banks will check in, and Troy Stratford out of Boston College checks into the ball game.
Illegal use of hands. Number 60 on the receiving team. First down.
Here's the Bengals front 7, and a good one it is. Crumry, the nose tackle. Good linebackers, White, Xander, Kelly, and Williams. And a good defensive backfield as well. Phillips, Thomas, David Fulcher. They try to run away from him, and Ricky Dixon. They're restless in the jungle. Marino 1st and 10 from his own 10. Sammy Smith up the middle for short yardage. And here's our first check of scores from around the league. Houston, Chicago, just underway, no score. Giants jumping out to a 3-0 lead over Washington. New England, Greg Davis, 52-yard field goal, takes the lead over Atlanta. No score in the 49er Dallas game. Detroit ahead of Tampa Bay. Green Bay and Minnesota, no score. Herschel Walker is playing for the Vikings today. That's Jensen in motion. Over the middle, he's got a man in a completion for a first down to the big tight end out of the University of Maryland. That is Farrell Edmonds.
As we mentioned before, we thought, man, we'd try to establish the running game. Obviously, that's not the case. First play, first pass, he's going upfield with the ball.
22-yard gain for Farrell Edmonds out of Maryland. Last season, he had some problems hooking the ball into his hands. During the offseason, they made him play video games to help his hand-eye coordination. I don't know if he'll catch any more passes, but he'll beat you at Nintendo. From the 35, Sammy Smith is stacked up. Jason Buck in on the hit for the Bengals along with Carl Zander. Clock running. 8 minutes and 35 seconds to play on a beautiful day in Cincinnati. First quarter.
Key to that 3-man front is the nose guy, Tim Crumry. But that thing got stacked up there.
From the 36-yard line, 3 wide receivers in the game. The pass is in and out of the hands of Jim Jensen. They were coming for him on that play.
Certainly, well, they realize that they have to put pressure on Dan Marino. Here they come. They're coming through the gaps from the outside. They've had an inside stunt, which means the defensive end comes inside, linebacker loops around the outside and tries to put pressure on him. Sometimes it's not necessary to hit the quarterback, but to let him know you're around him and make him a little nervous.
And don't think these Bengals haven't been talking about getting to Dan Marino all week long.
17 straight games.
They want him.
They're going to try and get him.
Third and 9. Got a man. Short of the first down. The completion to Mark Duper. The Bengals will be forced to punt it away.
There's the shotgun formation. Marino's taking a look downfield. Good catch. He should have ran his pattern a little deeper to get the first down.
Ricky Dixon ran him out of bounds for the Bengals. Reggie Roby, and yesterday he was soaring punts in practice for the Dolphins. Mike Martin is deep for the Bengals. Martin standing on his 15-yard line. Not what you call a great Roby kick. It would give Martin a chance to return it from the 17. And Mike Martin is up close to the 35-yard line. Jim Jensen on the stop for the Dolphins. 7 minutes, 14 seconds to play, and the Bengals lead it 3-0.
NBC sports coverage of the National Football League is brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Mazda Cars and Trucks. Mazda, it just feels right. And by Levi's 505 and 506 jeans.
Welcome back to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. We're just underway. And here's Reggie Roby.
Reggie Roby, look, he only takes a two-step drop kick, and you know, he look at that, you know, it looks like a ballet dancer. Reggie Roby, fine leg.
Here's Esiason on 1st and 10, getting some room around the outside. He has a first down. He's into Dolphin territory. Boomer Esiason, and that is what makes him such a dangerous quarterback, that he can tuck it under and go.
But it gives the offense another dimension to be able to have the quarterback be capable of running upfield like that.
18-yard gain for Esiason.
Takes a look here. Real tries to hand the ball off and goes the other way. Completely fools everybody on the Miami's defense. Runs upfield, gets a first down, and runs out of bounds.
Picked up a good block from Max Montoya on the play.
I'd like to have seen him cut upfield and shoot back across and hit somebody and dive over somebody else and just bam, 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 bam. You know, just get upfield. Boomer, get upfield. Like that quarterback. Tough.
I'm getting on the other side of the booth. Stanford Jennings taking a lick. We understand that Eric Ball was seen walking into the locker room. Starting running back for the Bengals, Eric Ball is headed into the locker room, and we will check on his situation for you. Barry Krause on the stop for the Dolphins.
Nice hit. Slid across the middle, made the stop. Trying to run inside Miami's defense. I don't know if I would do that.
There's Ball leaving. He appears to be hobbling. He has an ice pack on his right knee.
Looks like the lower part of his knee. Hopefully it's not too serious.
Ball on the 45-yard line. Clock running, 6:20 to play in the quarter. Brooks. Still on his feet.
Replay.
Paul Langford on the stop for the Dolphins, but James Brooks will not be denied running over anyone in his path for another Bengal first down.
Boomer Esiason hands the ball off to Brooks and cuts back. If you notice, Miami's defense is shifting and over-pursuing the ball, and that's how Brooks cuts back and gets yardage up the field. Miami's defense has to stay in one spot to control that backside. Now, the defensive end that's supposed to be there should have controlled the backside of it to get to Brooks. If you over-pursue, the ball carrier, the cutback play is going to make the yardage he needs.
Slot right on 1st and 10. Brooks has a blocker and is run out of bounds by Barry Krause. On that previous play, did you see James Brooks run over Louis Oliver? That is an accomplishment in itself.
Well, James Brooks, the strength coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, told us James Brooks is one of the strongest football players on the team.
Take a look at him here. Louis Oliver will put a lick on you, but James Brooks just lowered his head and took him on. Craig Taylor is checked in and out of the Bengal backfield. 2nd and 6. Down goes Boomer Esiason. Jeff Cross recording his 6th sack of the season. The Dolphins leading the NFL in sacks, and Jeff Cross has been a big reason.
Cross puts a good block on Cross, but still with that technique, that underarm move, good hustle, he takes Boomer Esiason down.
9-yard loss. Bengals looking at a 3rd and 15.
Him and Socha were tied for the lead of the team in sacks with 5 apiece, and Cross now has 6.
Dumps it off, and Rodney Holman could not haul it in. Jeff Cross's defensive play gets the Dolphins out of a deep hole and forces the Bengals out of a situation where they could have scored a touchdown.
Well, Miami's pass rush seems to be getting closer and closer to Boomer. They're putting some pressure on him. I think he's starting to feel that pressure. That's why he runs out of the pocket, looks downfield, releases the ball with no success in that particular play.
What a success story number 91 Jeff Cross has been. As I mentioned earlier, they didn't really project him to be a starter this year, but he came to camp 20 pounds heavier than he did last season, did a lot of weight work, impressed the coaches, and has come around and now leads his club in sacks. Jim Breach from 50 yards. It's a fake. And he tried to corner kick it, but it did not get into the end zone.
This Breach is a fine punter. I had a chance to talk to him yesterday. He's an unusual guy. Takes ballet lessons in the offseason.
Long after the game is over, NBC Sports is still on the line. Dial 1-900-226-8000 for NBC Scores Plus. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yesterday we had spent some time with Cincinnati Bengal defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau, and he said the Dolphin offense is a thing of beauty. It's something that is marvelous to watch, unless of course you have to coordinate the defense against it that week.
I wouldn't call it marvelous. I'd call it pretty destructive, actually.
Play action. Batted down at the line of scrimmage by Scow. Big Jim Scow got a hand up in the air, 6'3", 243. Drafted in the 3rd round of 1986 out of Nebraska. Very quiet off the field, very consistent on the field. And a reminder that we will be selecting the Budweiser Most Valuable Player for today's game immediately after the game. 4:34 to play. 2nd and 10 for the Dolphins. It's batted down again by Jim Scott. Talk about frustration in the eyes and face of Dan Marino.
I think what you see here is that Dan seems to be, his vision seems to be covered with Cincinnati's defensive line. They're putting their hands up. He's throwing the ball too low. He needs to get it up above the defensive line.
Well, they may be batting it down, but Marino has now attempted 701 passes without being sacked. Bengals go with 7 defensive backs on 3rd and 10.
If everybody's watching the 2-step drop by Dan Marino to get the ball, he's in a shotgun now. Normally it'd be just a 2-step drop and he gets rid of the ball.
Long ball. Overshooting Duper, but there's a marker on the play. Offensive interference against the Dolphins. So Miami will be forced to...
Illegal use of the hands. Number 85 offense. Penalty is declined. It's 4th down.
Punted away. Reggie Roby.
Reggie Roby, quite a punter.
And Mike Martin is deep for the Bengals on his 34-yard line. Roby's first punt today, 43 yards. Nearly blocked it. Drives Martin back to his 28. And carries it back to the 40 before he is swarmed under. Lifford Hobley leading the way for Miami.
There's Reggie Roby once again. 1, 2, and it's unusual. He kicks the ball. Normally it's 3 or 4 steps.
way. The Colts battle the Broncos. Next.
Checking scores from around the league. Bears jump out ahead of Houston. Giants leading Washington. Atlanta and New England are tied. In the Minnesota game, Herschel Walker returned a punt 51 yards, called back. There was a penalty in the backfield. Here in Cincinnati, Bengals are facing a 1st and 10, and they start from their own 40-yard line. Play action. Brooks couldn't hold on. Hugh Green had him defensively and appeared to tip the ball.
Well, Hugh's got great speed, and he might be the only guy in the field that can cover James Brooks at this point. Boomer Esiason throws off to James Brooks, and Hugh Green actually covered the ball from the eyes of Brooks, so it was a nice defensive play. And when you played the game, that was critical. If you couldn't get your hand on it, at least block the guy's vision. Well, when I played, I was so slow that I wouldn't have been near the ball anyway. So I'm glad Hugh's covering him, not me. You'd have been chasing it. That's right. From way behind. Esiason 3 of 6 for 41 yards. Brooks the lone setback. James Brooks inside Dolphin territory, running right over Anthony Munoz. And if he's hurting, he certainly isn't showing it today. Well, they told us yesterday that they were going to use James Brooks in their offensive game plan, and obviously he's been in almost 75% of their plays already. It's a handoff to Brooks, cuts it back upfield. It's a nice hold by Anthony Munoz. Takes a break to the outside, upfield, knocks over one Miami defender, and brings himself down. 1st and 10 from the 47. Clock running, 3:25 to play in the first quarter. The Bengals are leading the Dolphins 3-0. Miami needs to put some pressure on Boomer Esiason. They're not doing it. Stanford Jennings crashing forward to the 43-yard line before he's stopped by the linebacker Dave Aarons. He's running in the wrong place with Mike Socia there. You know, one Christmas he has Brian Soche. Brian Soche. His car broke. He was riding down the highway. So a car pulled over to the side, had a flat tire, picked up the back end of the car. They changed the tire, put the car back down, and drove off, went home. So Shea, jacking him on the field, and the human jack for automobiles. That's right. James Brooks now the lone setback behind Esiason on 2nd and 6. Brooks turning it upfield, close to the first down. Before he is wrapped up by Brian Soche. It's a nice play by him. You know, the cutback that Brooks is trying to create here opens up seams in the Miami defensive line. And he sees those gaps. Brooks tries to break through there and get some yardage. And that time, they had Soche hold back to catch the cutback of Brooks. Soche is right here waiting for him. As you see Cincinnati's offensive line creating that movement to spread the defensive line.
77 is an eligible receiver. 77.
Soche makes the tackle. Scott Jones checks in. Jones replaced Anthony Munoz when he was hurt last week. He's on the right side. He's an eligible receiver. Play action. And it's the tight end Rodney Holman. Touchdown. Boomer Esiason to Rodney Holman. Last week, Breach mixed an extra point. He's perfect on this one. Boomer Esiason takes what they call a fake to pull the linebackers inside to the line of scrimmage so that Robbie Holman can get free playing tight end spot. And there's the ball right there.
You know what's so interesting, Lyle? They put Scott Jones in. They announce to the crowd that he's an eligible receiver. Esiason looks his way. The Dolphins are probably...
If you watch here, you'll see Boomer sends the ball inside the line of scrimmage, and Boomer throws it to the tight end.
You talk about another weapon, though. Here, White puts a guy in, intentionally announces that he's eligible. People are looking at him, then he goes the other way.
But it's important to note that that simple offensive formation is to draw the linebackers up to the line of scrimmage, tighten down the line of scrimmage, to specifically confuse the defense, and that's why they got the ball to the tight end, Holman. Touchdown.
Bengals move 5 plays, 60 yards, ate up 2 minutes and 36 seconds of the clock. The payoff, Esiason to Rodney Holman for a 38-yard score. That's Holman's 3rd touchdown catch of the season, and the Bengals are out 10-0.
As you can see, the trainer there spilling water over his offensive line. If I had guys that big, I'd spread water over them too, Fred.
What's very interesting about their offensive line
that they average 290 pounds.
Yeah, and that they're very banged up and they're very nicked up, and they've played as well as they have so far this afternoon. Mark Logan, leading kick returner in the National Football League from the goal line. Logan over the 30 to the 32. Checking scores from elsewhere now. No change in the Bears score. New England now out ahead of Atlanta 6-3. Darren Nelson refused to report to the Dallas Cowboys today. He basically said when the Vikings sent him to Dallas, I'm going to go down to Dallas and watch the game. My wife has a very successful law practice in Minneapolis.
Maybe he wants $1 million to leave.
Maybe he wants his wife to continue practicing law, and then he'll go up and discuss with her his plans and thoughts on Monday. Here is Sammy Smith for the Dolphins. And there went Sammy Smith for the Dolphins.
And so far, Miami hasn't established any sort of running game, and it's put a lot of pressure on Dan Marino. You can see it in his face. Unless that pressure's taken off Dan, they're going to have a problem the rest of the afternoon.
Could he be the best safety in football? David Fulcher, he's built like a linebacker, could be the prototype for his position in years to come. 6'3", 234. Only 25 years old, out of Arizona State University. He is one mean hitter. As a matter of fact, a lot of clubs try to run away from him just to take him out of the play. Dolphins with 4 wide receivers in the game on 2nd and 10. Got a completion to Troy Stratford, and he stopped short of the 40-yard line. Lyle, when you played and there was a menacing defensive figure, would offenses intentionally run away from him to take him out of the play?
Sometimes they would do that, but in order to gain confidence for their offensive line, sometimes they would run directly at the strength of the defense. So it just depends on the offensive philosophy.
What do you think about running away from David Fulcher now?
At the moment, I think they need to run at somebody, whether it's Fulcher or not. They need to establish some sort of running game.
Clock running. We'll try to get it in before the end of the first quarter. Marino off Cooper's fingertips, and that's it. We have completed 1 quarter of play at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, and the Bengals have jumped out to a 10-0 lead over the Miami Dolphins. Just getting it away here in the second quarter. Dan Marino on the sideline talking to Don Shula, trying to figure out a way to move the ball against the Bengals.
Well, it's very obvious that, as we've mentioned time and time again, that they have not established a running game. Dan Marino has a lot of pressure on him right now. He's the only guy that's moving the ball upfield, and they can't win that way. It'd be very difficult for them.
Mike Martin awaiting Reggie Roby's 3rd punt of the game. And he sails this one. Drives Martin back to the 13-yard line. And he stopped at the 25, where the Bengals will start 1st and 10. Don McNeil on the hit for Miami. 47-yard punt and a 12-yard return. First quarter stats, Lyle.
Well, first downs, obviously, the Dolphins have gotten 1 first down. The Bengals have 8. Rushing yardage. The Bengals obviously have established the running game. Once again, Miami has a problem with that passing. Boomer has 70 yards, and Dan, with a lot of pressure on him, has got only 33 yards.
It goes back to what Sam White said yesterday. We want to control the ball and keep Miami's offense off the field.
And they're succeeding at it. Here comes Boomer.
Bengals start from the 26, 1st and 10. Brooks. And Sauché wraps him up and brings him down. We were speaking to Brian Sauché yesterday, and he said he is a man that needs challenges. Now there's some pushing and shoving, and a flag has been thrown.
Oh, I like to see that. Look at them pushing each other, shoving. Yeah, bam! Get them, guys! Get them! Smash them around! That's the way football's supposed to be played. Right here. They say Sauché camps out on the edge of reality.
I know someone else that does as well.
I used to.
Okay.
Personal foul, offsetting, 2nd down.
Lyle, do you think this particular play a late hit occurred?
Boomer takes the ball, gives it off to Brooks. Nice block.
Well, there's Dave Aarons.
Well, you know, sometimes you take a look at something like that and his momentum carries him through to the play. If he would have put a real shot on him, then yeah, you call the penalty, but I don't see it that way.
Time of possession key. Dolphins with the ball twice as long as the Bengals. James Brooks. Stop short of the 30. Dave Aarons in on the stop again for the Dolphins.
James Brooks must have studied with Marshall Baryshnikov. Look at these moves. Fake here to the right, come back upfield. Always, you notice him, James Brooks is always moving upfield, making moves, not to the side so much, but gaining yardage upfield to push the ball. Get that 1st down. He's having a whale of a day.
Esiason draws the Bengals off. The Dolphins. And it's interesting because last week, twice.
Ball start, 74 offense. 3rd down. Wind it.
Tom, turn off your microphone. Thank you. Referee Tom Dooley. Nobody can whistle.
Number 74, Bryant.
You see it there.
Looks like the defensive lineman came off the ball.
Blados moved a little bit there. Last week, Esiason drew the defense off twice. This time, he got caught. Movement again, but no flags on this play. And Esiason running for his life. Sauché's got him. Brian Sauché giving chase. Again, we were speaking to him yesterday. He talked about needing challenges in life. When he gets done playing football, he's only 28 years old. He says he may go to medical school.
Here's great hustle by Boomer Esiason rolling out of the pocket, trying to get the ball upfield. Great hustle by the Miami defense. Sauché makes a great effort and pulls him down from the backside. And I said Boomer had a bad ankle. Obviously not.
Obviously.
Do you think they tried to fool us?
Never.
Can't.
Lee Johnson in punt formation. Troy Stratford deep for the Dolphins. Nice kick. It takes a Dolphin roll. And Eric Caddis was there to down it for Cincinnati. 12 minutes, 14 seconds to play in the 1st half. The Dolphins are going to try to get on the board when we come back.
We see the doctor checking Eric Ball's knee. It seems to be just a bruise. I sent a message down to tell him to put a Band-Aid on it and go with it. He's on the side. We see him on the sideline loosening up. He looks okay to me.
The x-rays indicated no broken bones. It's just a bruise, so it's going to hurt.
If he can walk on it, he should be playing.
And he'll be in there.
All right.
Dolphins on 1st and 10 from the 49-yard line. Play action. Farrell Edmonds. Did he hold on to it? No. We talked about it earlier. Edmonds has problems concentrating on watching the ball into his hands.
What you see Miami trying to do now is they're trying to move the pocket outside of Cincinnati's rush. To get Dan outside to move the ball upfield. And obviously here, once again, concentration is a problem.
We've talked about the Dolphins trying to establish that running game. Don Shula told us last night he's been trying to establish it for 3 years. Today, 3 rushes for only 4 yards. They're not moving the ball on the ground, and that's what they wanted to do.
Both times they got no yardage. The receivers have to catch the ball, too.
Good grab and a completion with markers on the play. Looking the ball right in was Mark Clayton in heavy traffic. Check that, it was Duper. Mark Duper with the reception.
This reception here extended his
Illegal contact, 29 defense, penalties refused, first down.
Oh, did you see Dan Marino fire that ball, thread that ball in there?
Ricky Dixon, the man called for the illegal contact. He wants to hit you so badly, he'll hit you whether he's supposed to or he's not supposed to. Leading tackler on the Bengals. Clock running, 11:50 to play in the first half. Dolphins trying to get something going, moving 1st and 10 from the 35. Sammy Smith over the 30. Chicago still leading Houston. Giants over Washington. It's been a game of field goals, New England and Atlanta. We understand Joe Montana is not playing for the 49ers right now, has a bruised elbow. Steve Young is a quarterback. Montana just elected not to start. And Herschel Walker's run 41 yards from the line of scrimmage already for Minnesota. Smith, and there's a hole and a first down for the Dolphins.
Greg, we have to make note for a moment here to watch and understand why Miami's running game is beginning to take effect now. The Miami offensive line, if you take notice, have made wider splits in their gaps to spread Cincinnati's defense out. The hole is there, the speed is there, and he's upfield and makes the yardage.
So it was that simple, that kind of adjustment will make the difference?
Absolutely. Sometimes when you have those splits closed down, their defense can cover those gaps a lot quicker. Spread them out, spread the defense out, the gap's there, the hole's there, great yardage.
Dolphins from the 20. Troy Stratford out of Boston College, and he picks up yardage before he's stopped by David Fulcher and Joe Kelly.
And if you also notice that Miami's offensive line now is beginning to maneuver block, which means technique block, not powering them, trying to outmaneuver them, trying to second guess them.
Lyle, let me correct myself. Again, it was Sammy Smith. He's becoming the workhorse now. I guess if the Dolphins are going to run the ball, it's going to be Sammy Smith. Before Smith came to the club.
Here's the wider splits now. Miami seems to be going for that, as it's been successful for them the last few plays. Here we go once again. Smith
was stopped by Joe Kelly, right inside linebacker.
Missed blocking assignment by the right offensive tackle from Miami Dolphins. He let that linebacker slide across and shut that gap down. Ronnie Lee needs to close that gap down right here. Number 58. Number 58. Kelly should have been blocked. And he's the one that slid in and closed the gap down.
3rd and 2. Big play. Incomplete. He was looking for Stratford on that one and bounced the ball to him. Pete Stoyanovich trots on for a field goal try. Last week, Stoyanovich missed a critical field goal late in the game. The game eventually went into overtime, and he won it. Some say if he missed that field goal, he wouldn't have been here this week.
All right, well, look at that helmet he's wearing. I mean, of course he missed. Look at it. Face mask hanging down, helmet all crooked.
Rookie out of Indiana. 30-yard attempt. He's perfect from this distance this season.
He's a fine kicker, though, Frederick.
And he's 3 for 3 from this distance this season. Dolphins on the board. 9:05 to play in the first half.
NBC Sports coverage of the National Football League is brought to you by Pontiac and your local Pontiac dealer. We build excitement. By Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. And by the First Brands Corporation, makers of Prestone Advanced Formula Antifreeze.
A lovely city indeed, Cincinnati, Ohio.
The view from here is absolutely astronomical, Frederick.
Stoyanovich tees it up. Ira Hillary and Kendall Smith are deep for the Bengals.
Oh, I love those cheerleaders. It adds a lot to the game.
It's Hillary. He's over the 15-yard line, and that's where the Bengals will start 1st and 10.
Rushing in time of possession, obviously, James Brooks himself has the 9 for 58 yards.
He's had the ball longer than Miami.
Certainly has. They said yesterday that Brooks will be the main part of their offensive weapon, and certainly has.
Well, what's also interesting is the line situation for the Bengals. Their offensive line is so banged up, and they've played so well this afternoon. It's helped Brooks. They've opened the holes, and he's run through them. From the 18-yard line, it's that man Brooks trying to turn the corner. Marker on the play, and Brooks is taken out of bounds by Lewis Oliver.
There was holding on the play. That's how Brooks got outside that time. Boomer hands the ball up to Brooks, and if you watch on the outside, tight end holds the defensive back, and he gets upfield. Brooks gets upfield.
First down.
Giants still ahead of Washington.
New England over Atlanta 9-3 in the second.
Minnesota leading Green Bay. That's a big game in the NFC Central.
Joe Montana is not playing for San Francisco.
Has a banged up elbow. Steve Young is in the ball game.
And he's a fine quarterback.
You have the luxury of having Young and Montana on your club. You have two outstanding quarterbacks.
There's two great ones playing here today.
Stanford Jennings moving forward to the 12-yard line before he's dropped.
If you notice that
all right, coming up at halftime, don't forget Bob Costas and O.J. Simpson will join us from NFL Live. They'll update scores from around the National Football League, and Gail Gardner with a very special profile on Steve Person. That coming up at halftime on NFL Live, so please stay with us.
If you notice, Miami's defensive situation right now is one that they're holding back to the backside, so all these cutback plays that Cincinnati's running can be stopped. The pursuit can overflow sometimes, and that's where they're getting those cutback gains from.
Will the clock operator please reset the clock to 8 minutes and 19 seconds. 8 minutes and 19 seconds.
Is he from England?
The Bengals had the ball, and suddenly there was more time on the clock.
Well, maybe this is England time.
Now it's 8:19.
Could be LA time.
Bengals rushing so far, 17 carries, 102 yards on the ground for the Bengals. They're grounding it out. Play action for Boomer. Got a blocker in front of him. Long ball for McGee. He's got it. And they call him out of bounds. There's also a marker on the play back at the 20-yard line. It appeared the official ruled him out of bounds, Lyle.
Certainly looks that way. Boomer here has what they call a floating pocket. He has like all his offensive linemen and people around him protecting him to pick up the receiver, throws the ball.
78 offense, second down.
It's a great play by McGee right here. Catch the ball. Boomer has a nice throw to it. Nice touch.
Look at his feet. Play was nullified. You still appreciate a fine effort. It's like he had his feet in, but it will go for naught. He had a man blocking in front of him. Ooh. Anthony Munoz was called for being downfield illegally. It nullifies a 56-yard play.
Anthony Munoz, one of the best offensive linemen to ever play this game.
Strained a ligament in his right knee last week. Some did not expect him to play. in his career, he's missed only one start in 10 years, Lyle, and that was when he was holding out. First game against Indianapolis a couple of years ago. Anthony Munoz, the premier player at his position.
I'm sorry, Fred. When I played against Anthony Munoz, he is one of the 3 best offensive linemen that I ever faced. Every time I played against him, he beat me up.
He beat you up?
I invited him to dinner, sent him telegrams, invited him to my home, continued to pound on my face.
Did no good.
Leave me alone, Anthony, leave me alone. Wouldn't do it.
The ineligible penalties are declined. It will be 3rd down. The pass was incomplete.
Oh, the Bengal fans don't like that. We looked at the replay and checked the feet of Tim McGee, and it was very close. Sets up a 3rd and 15 for Cincinnati. 3 wide receivers in the game. Out of time. Got a man.
Look at that, baby.
I rate Hillary on the reception. Well short of the 1st down. Bengals will have to kick it away. First time this afternoon that Boomer Esiason has really been frustrated.
Well, I think he's trying to get the ball upfield very quickly to put this game out of reach. And they keep making a little bit of mistakes.
Could a game ever be out of reach when you have Dan Marino at quarterback?
That's a point to take note.
Lee Johnson kicking to Stratford. Ran into a brick wall.
In your face.
A brick wall by the name of Barney Bussey. 45-yard punt, 9-yard return. The Dolphins will have the ball when we come back.
This is Bob Costas in New York. Moments ago at Soldier Field, it's Warren Moon, 42 yards to Drew Hill for an Oiler touchdown. Hill's receiving partner, Ernest Givens, out of the game, KO'd by a hit from Mike Singletary. He's out with a concussion. But now at the 2-minute warning in Chicago, Houston leads Mike Ditka's Bears 10-7. Back to Cincinnati.
Thanks, Bob. I'll tell you, winning at Soldier Field is one thing. Surviving at Soldier Field is another.
And Houston's doing a good job right now.
On 1st and 10 here, Marino has his man. It's Mark Clayton. 43 straight games now with at least 1 reception for Mark Clayton.
Mark Clayton takes a nice out pattern, like a little button pattern. And these are the kind of patterns that Dan Marino likes to throw, because these 2 receivers, Clayton and Duper, can get free in those patterns. Little spin around move upfield.
On 1st and 10, it's the up back, Mark Logan. Logan knows these Bengals all too well. Last year, he was a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was not protected during the offseason, signed with the Dolphins, because here in Cincinnati, he didn't have a place to play. He was playing behind Ickey Woods. He was playing behind James Brooks. They selected Eric Ball. Logan goes down to Miami and is very comfortable and always has a smile on his face.
Cincinnati is very deep at every position, so he's probably gone to a place where he can play a lot.
Jim Jensen in motion. Quick release, and it's nearly picked off by David Fulcher. And there you see a problem with Dan Marino. He hasn't been sacked in 17 straight games, but let's keep in mind, he doesn't hold the ball very long either. He has 10 interceptions.
No, he certainly doesn't, but if you take a look here, they've closed the splits down. And every time he throws the ball now, they're closing those splits down. He tries to release the ball a little bit too quick. And the pattern must have been run wrong, because he threw to the air and the receiver wasn't there.
On 3rd and 9, Bengals have brought in 7 defensive backs.
Tough situation for Miami. They should not be in 3rd and 9.
Dolphins
have short.
Dolphins have 5 wide receivers. Airing it out. Too much. Looking for Mark Duper. Ricky Dixon and Solomon Wilcox at him defensively. The Dolphins coming into this game, 2nd in the NFL in 3rd down conversions. They are 0 for 5 so far today.
Too much of a touch on the ball for Marino. It's a nice pattern run by Ricky. Ricky Dixon actually got beat here.
Reggie Roby into punt. Mike Martin standing on his 10-yard line. It's over his head. He'll let it go.
Dang.
Oh, he really skied that one. Beautiful kick. But now it takes a Bengal bounce. That ball hit on the 1-yard line and rolled all the way back to the 19.
As we noted before, Fred, on this AstroTurf, some of the gaps the ball could have hit one of those gaps from the baseball field that they have here and could have taken it bounce the opposite way.
Credit Reggie Roby with a 22-yard punt. So Boomer Esiason is back on the field with 6 minutes and 4 seconds to play in the first half. The Bengals are leading the Dolphins 10-3.
Has the ball here. Missed. The sun might have gotten his eyes. The ball drops and might have hit a crack and bounced out the other way. That's the outfield in baseball where the ball landed.
First and 10 from the 20-yard line. Slot to the near side of the field. That's Eddie Brown in motion. And this is James Brooks. Last year, Brooks voted to the Pro Bowl for the second time in his career.
He can go to the Pro Bowl in this game alone.
Second in the AFC in touchdowns scored with 5. What a deal back in '84 the Bengals made with San Diego. James Brooks for Pete Johnson. Who would have thunk it?
Not I.
Clock running, 5.5 to play in the half. With time, he's got Rodney Holman in a first down for the Bengals at the 45-yard line. Barry Krause back there defensively for Miami. And we were told yesterday by Sam White, if you're going to put a linebacker like Barry Krause head up with Rodney Holman, they're going to go to Holman every time.
Well, it seems to be a mismatch here. Rodney Holman is obviously a key receiver for Boomer. When he needs a big play, he goes right there. Obviously, the pattern should have been covered better. Wasn't by Miami. And there was a hole in the seam there.
Rodney Holman is a gifted player. One of the best tight ends in the National Football League.
And that's why Boomer goes to him in critical situations.
Clock running, 4:40 to play. First and 10. Brooks has a blocker. Didn't pick up much. Good pursuit on that play by the Dolphins. Barry Krause and E.J. Jr. shutting down the corner. Chicago out ahead of Houston. Deion Sanders started in the Atlanta game. Neon Deion. When you look good, you play good. When you play good, you get paid good. The quotes of Neon Deion Sanders. Dallas tied with San Francisco.
And Tampa 10-3 over Detroit.
Minnesota still ahead of Green Bay.
Herschel Walker playing for the Vikings today.
Play action didn't fool anybody, and they're going to call him in the grass. Tom Dooley says, Boomer, you were caught before you threw the ball. Dave Aarons pressuring for the Dolphins. Aarons was a Plan B signee from Detroit during the offseason.
And they had a blitz on here to get him through the gap, pull the defensive lineman to the outside, open up the hole, and shoot through there to get to Boomer. Seemed to work, obviously. Like that play, like that play. Knock that quarterback down. Nice pressure.
Got him for a 12-yard loss. During the offseason, Dave Aarons runs a frozen custard stand in Wisconsin. Nothing like frozen custard in January in Wisconsin.
And Boomer Esiason owns La Boom Restaurant Lounge.
On 3rd and 18, Mike Martin's got the ball, but he's well short of the first down. Lifford Hobley defensively for the Dolphins. The Bengals will be forced to punt it away. Hobley, a free agent signee in his 4th year out of Louisiana State. 27 years old. He's 6 foot, 202 pounds. You see him in that nickel situation.
They bring a guy like that in so he can cover a wider portion of the field. His vision is great. He can see more what's happening in the field with a guy like that. He's got great speed, great coverage. He has great vision, as I mentioned. And here's one of those funny helmets by the punters, kickers.
Lee Johnson in to punt it away. Troy Stratford and Jarvis Williams are deep. Nice kick. Fair catch called for at the 10-yard line. That's the point of no return. Stratford hauling it in. All right, let's update you now on what's coming up on NFL Live during our halftime festivities. Bob Costas and O.J. Simpson will be along, updating you with scores and highlights from around the National Football League. And Gail Gardner with a very special interview with Steve Corson. That coming up on NFL Live at halftime.
Former Pittsburgh Steeler offensive lineman has a heart problem. That should be pretty interesting.
Second game of our doubleheader coming up. Some of you will see Indianapolis and Denver. Others, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It's a big doubleheader day of football on NBC Sports. Dolphins starting well in their own territory. 1st and 10 from the 10. Smith. Short of the 15-yard line. Reggie Williams on the stop for the Bengals.
As I mentioned before, gaps are opened up in Miami's offensive line to get that running game going. Split Cincinnati's defensive line, give you some running room.
You see the clock. That's to the 2-minute warning. It's picked off. David Fulcher. And he's inside the 20. Lyles, did they try to rush that play?
What happened? It looked like Dan was under a lot of pressure. Felt like he had to get the ball released a little quicker, and he threw the ball in an interception. He should have held on to the ball. If you watch him here as Dan drops back, take a look at him. He's shaking in the stance there. He needs to sit still there. He needs to throw the ball and get rid of it.
The Bengals with a chance to capitalize when we come back. Lucky number 13 for David Fulcher, career-wise, the 4th interception he's made this season. He's a Pro Bowl player. And take another look. Lyle, I've got to be honest with you. I think they were rushing to beat the 2-minute clock, and they simply were not organized.
No, it looks right here. If you look, see Dan's dancing in his stance there. He didn't wait. The pattern wasn't completed running yet. He should have waited for the receiver to complete the pattern, then release the ball. But I think he's thinking pressure. He released the ball too quickly.
So you don't think they rushed it to try and beat the clock? They didn't seem disorganized to you?
No, that doesn't seem that way.
Marino's 11th interception this season against 8 touchdown passes. Bengals could really hammer one here now. From the 19, 1st and 10, Eddie Brown in motion. James Brooks inside the 15-yard line before Jeff Cross stops him. I would say they're going to their 2-minute offense, but their 2-minute offense is their attack offense, which they use most of the time anyway.
I would think in this situation they'd go to that no-huddle offense.
You see the clock as to the end of the first. 2nd and 6. The pitch. Brooks has Munoz in front of him. He's out of bounds at the 12-yard line. More often than not, when the Bengals touch the ball on the ground, you know they're going to chew up at least 4 yards. That's what they've been averaging.
Another pitch out to Brooks, trying to take it outside the line. Miami linebackers, gets it upfield.
77.
And James is going to need a whirlpool after this game.
77 is an eligible receiver.
For the 2nd time this game, Scott Jones has become an eligible receiver for the Bengals. He'll line up on the right side outside of Brian Blados. But Rodney Holman, the tight end, is on the left. Remember what happened the last time this situation occurred. This time they give it to Brooks. I think he's got a 1st down. th carry of the afternoon for James Brooks.
Cincinnati, their first charge, team timeout.
Brooks was 77 yards.
40-second timeout.
Bengals take a timeout, so will we. James Brooks has been averaging 100 yards a game rushing this season. He has 77 yards, and we still have a minute to play in the first half.
Well, with the absence of Ickey Woods, they needed a guy that could get outside, use his speed, be strong enough to go inside, and James Brooks seems to be the guy who can do both things for Cincinnati.
All right, your 1st and goal from the 8-yard line. You've got a minute to play. You're calling the plays.
Boomer might go right to the end zone right now, right away.
Brooks is the lone setback. McGee to the near side of the field. Brown is wide. Brooks has blockers. Good play. Nice defensive play. Jarvis Williams coming up from his safety position to chop James Brooks down.
It's important when they're close to the goal line like that, that the Miami defensive backs come up in force like that. Put a nice shot on the back.
Dolphins have all 3 timeouts remaining.
I don't think second about turning that corner.
Bengals have 2.
78 are eligible receivers.
And now they have Anthony Munoz and Scott Jones as eligible receivers. Eric Ball is back in the backfield for the Bengals.
Years ago, Anthony caught a touchdown pass.
It's Ball, and he's stacked up. Dave Aaron's on the hit, along with William Judson.
Timeout, Cincinnati.
And the Bengals are forced to use their second timeout. Well, you have to be impressed with the Dolphins' defensive poise here.
I was just going to mention, Fred, that Miami's short yardage defense, what they're doing in there is bringing the defensive line down inside the gaps to shoot the gaps to get penetration through the offensive line so the back has nowhere to go. And penetration by the linebackers obviously has helped that. Miami's deep.
While we have a moment, let's get you caught up on scores elsewhere. They're at the half, San Francisco and Dallas.
Dallas hanging in there.
Second quarter scores, Tampa, Detroit, and Green Bay, Minnesota.
Once again, Herschel Walker's playing on a regular basis for Minnesota right now.
At the half, the Bears leading Houston, 3-3 Giants in Washington, and New England is on the board. Doug Flutie threw a touchdown pass. They missed the extra point. The book on James Brooks so far, 15 carries, 80 yards. He's averaging 5.3
77 and 78 are eligible receivers.
per carry.
77 and 78 are eligible receivers.
And again, stay with us for halftime activities from New York. Bob Costas and O.J. Simpson. 3rd and 5. Brooks didn't get there. The Dolphins have to be feeling pretty good about their defensive stand here as Hugh Green rammed him out of bounds, and there's a man down.
In actuality, Miami's defense has played very well today. It's just unfortunate they've been on the field a long time.
James Brooks is not the only Bengal down. It's Max Montoya, and the last thing the Bengals need is another banged-up offensive lineman. The veteran out of UCLA is very slow getting up.
You go to James Brooks again, trying to get him outside of the linebackers. They've been successful midfield doing that. Tries to turn it upfield, and the linebackers covered very well and forced him out of bounds. Once again, Miami's short yardage defense comes up with the big play.
Again, a problem with the clock. They've just asked the stadium clock operator.
Please reset the clock to 7 seconds. We have a charged team timeout to Cincinnati.
Lyle, it's hard to pick up the injury to Max Montoya. It occurred just as Brooks was running out of bounds. But Montoya is now being helped up.
Once again, he could have tripped possibly or fell on one of the cracks in the baseball field where they replaced that turf and put the AstroTurf down.
Montoya is a team leader.
They're playing right on that area.
Played in the Pro Bowl for the 2nd time last season. And some have called him the best pass-blocking guard in the NFL. This creates a real problem for Sam Weish. He only had 7 offensive linemen to start. 5 can play at a time. They have Jeton playing left guard for Reimers.
When I put against the Cincinnati offensive line, they weren't quite as effective as they are right now. And obviously they've developed together. They've played for a few years together, and they're playing very well. Max Montoya is one of the best, as you mentioned, pass-blocking offensive guards in football, and he's developed over the last few years like that. Tough kid.
Jim Breach from 22 yards away. Since being re-signed prior to last week, replacing Jim Gallery, Breach has done a fine job kicking field goals for the Bengals. They moved 7 plays, 15 yards, 1 minute and 54 seconds, and it's capped off on the 22-yard field goal. But the turnover gives the Bengals a chance to score near the end of the half, and they capitalize.
Miami's defense is playing very well. They're only behind 13-3, and yet Cincinnati is obviously controlling the ball. They've had the ball much more time than Miami's offense, and that was the key to the game.
Now, this is something that Don Shula might be concerned about at the half, Lyle. His defense is playing for so many moments here that they're going to be very worn come the second half.
Here's a very popular player in Cincinnati, Icky the Shuffle Woods. Can you dance like that? He can't dance now either.
Well, it was a big loss for the Bengals when Icky Woods went down. A very, very popular young man here in Cincinnati.
Great personality, great athlete, great human being.
But a positive note for the Bengals.
You know, I don't mean to interrupt there, Fred, but, you know, I tried to do that little Icky Woods shuffle. I fell and sprained my wrist.
Icky Woods' injury opened the door for Eric Ball, and at least it's giving a rookie a chance to play and prove himself in the NFL.
So next year when Icky comes back, they have that much more depth.
The Bengals are that much stronger a ball club.
And they already have depth in every position.
Now, in this situation, you might watch for a squib kick. 4 seconds to play. You might watch for the squib. Lee Johnson. Just lined it. And Logan watches it roll through the end zone. This is no time to get fancy. It's one play, let's get out of here and regroup.
Hail Mary, let's go home.
The last thing the Dolphins want to do with 4 seconds left in the half is turn the ball over again.
I'd throw it downfield. I would throw the ball as far and as long as I could see the field.
How many games did you play on offense in your career?
I had absolutely 10. You didn't know that, did you, Fred?
You played 10 games on offense?
That's right.
What position?
I can't tell you that.
I didn't think so.
Yes, Fred.
What position?
Frederick, I'm sorry.
The center.
Center.
You played center?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
A position that carries the ball, Fred.
Here we go. Let's find out. Let's find out.
There's the Hail Mary.
That's the Hail Mary run to Mark Logan.
Hail Mary run, huh?
And that's it for the first half. Well, the Bengals told us before the game that they wanted to try and control the ball and keep it out of Dan Marino's hands. In doing so, they were able to put points on the board. A turnover by Marino late in the half led to another Cincinnati score, and the Bengals lead the Dolphins 13-3 at the half.
NBC sports coverage of the National Football League is brought to you by today's truck, Chevrolet. Nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America. NFL halftime activities will continue after these messages from your local station.
Enter Channel 22's 25th anniversary Cosby contest today.
Hi again, everybody. Bob Costas along with O.J. Simpson. We welcome those of you watching the Miami-Cincinnati game, and we begin with the story out of Minnesota. Did Herschel Walker make an impact, Juice? Well, the first time he touched the ball, 51-yard kickoff return, unfortunately called back by a penalty. The next time, his first run from scrimmage, he gallops 47, and had he not stumbled, he might have gone all the way for a touchdown. Unfortunately, again, the next play, Tommy Kramer intercepted, so the drive was thwarted. At last check, 8 carries, 69 yards in the first half for Herschel Walker.
Well, the trade is already paying dividends because before that 47-yard run, the Packers were pushing Minnesota around pretty good. They went up 7-0. Despite that interception by Minnesota, they've come back after that run, and they played inspired ball. They're pushing the Packers around pretty good right now, and they're up 17-7.
Yeah, they've just gone to the half of the Metrodome, 17-7. Now let's quickly check the other scores. Houston playing at Chicago and at Soldier Field. The Bears lead in this one 14-10. A look at some of the highlights on the pregame show. O.J. told you all about something that he actually had a glimmer about to begin with, Mike Ditker's volatile relationship with his quarterbacks. Well, Mike Tomczak threw an interception in the first half. Here's the Ditka reaction. All 13 of Tomczak's passes were caught in the first half, 11 by his teammates and 2 by Houston. Here's a Houston interception, however, off the hands of Drew Hill on the Warren Moon pass, and Lorenzo Lynch brings it back 39 yards for Chicago. and the Bears turn the takeaway into a touchdown. It's Tomczak hitting Neil Anderson for a 6-yard TD, and they lead 7-0. But after Tomczak threw his second interception of the half, the Oilers cash in. It was 7-3 at this point. Here's Hill with the catch on the 42-yarder, 10-7 in favor of Houston. The Bears bounce back on their next possession. Neil Anderson breaking loose down the left sideline, 20-yard gain. 3 plays later, he went in for his and the Bears' second touchdown of the first half. He has 10 touchdowns for the year. Speaking of Neil Anderson, that leads the National Football League. Ernest Givens, by the way, Drew Hill's receiving partner for the Oilers, out of the game with a concussion after a hit from Mike Singletary. They're now early in the third quarter, and the Bears clinging to the 14-10 lead. In the game you're watching, Cincinnati leading Miami at the half. The score there, 13-3. Washington and the Giants, halftime at the Meadowlands, even up on a pair of field goals, 3 apiece. New England and Atlanta, the Patriots lead at the half, 15-13. It was 15-6. Following a New England touchdown pass from Doug Flutie to Cedric Jones. They missed the point after following the 15-yard throw from Flutie to Jones, and then came this kickoff return by Deion Sanders. He takes it at the 10, and watch him go, cutting and weaving through the special teams unit of the Patriots. He brings it back 60 yards. You know, there are a lot of people who believe that eventually they'll have to switch him to an offensive player from defensive back, not just returning kicks, but get into a wide receiver spot. That remains to be seen. The Patriots leading at the half, 15-13, following the kick return. Atlanta went in and scored after Sanders had set them up. San Francisco playing at Dallas. San Francisco has 6 consecutive road wins, 17 of their past 19 away from Candlestick. They've come away with the victory. Dallas winless at 0-5, playing them tough at home, 7-7 in the third quarter. It's Steve Young in place of the injured Joe Montana. Montana out with the elbow. Young threw a 36-yard touchdown pass to Brent Jones. Steve Walsh has a TD pass for Dallas. Tampa Bay at home against Detroit. The Buccaneers lead in this one 10-3. It's Joe Ferguson for Vinny Testaverde. Testaverde out with a bad knee. Ferguson's first pass of the day was intercepted, but the Bucs still lead at the half, 10-3. And as we told you, Minnesota, behind the exploits of Herschel Walker, their new acquisition, leading Green Bay at the Metrodome. Both clubs 3-2, 17-7 Vikes at the half. More after this from your local stations.
Our halftime score in Cincinnati, the Bengals leading the Miami Dolphins 13-3. This was the lone touchdown of the first half. Boomer Esiason rolled out, then threw back across the field to his big tight end, Rodney Holman. Holman made the reception, turned it into the touchdown, and other than field goals, that is the scoring in this first half. Bengals leading the Dolphins 13-3 at halftime. Fred Rogan along with Lyle Alizado. And Lyle, the Dolphins said they wanted to try and control the ball. The Bengals said they wanted to try and control the ball, and the Bengals have done a better job of it.
Well, what Cincinnati's tried to do is establish the running game. Obviously, they've done that. The problem with Miami is that they have nobody that's been capable of establishing the running game for them. There's a lot of pressure on Dan Marino. He has not completed very many passes. His receivers have dropped the ball. Now, of course, Cincinnati wanted to put James Brooks in their game plan. And that's basically what they've done. He's carried the ball. He could probably be voted into the Pro Bowl in this game alone.
Given the amount of time that Miami's defense was on the field in the first half, will fatigue become a problem? And now will that Bengal running game work more and more to their advantage?
Well, what's important that Miami has to establish right now to keep their defense off the field, they need to control the ball somewhat. Cincinnati, of course, is doing basically everything they want to do.
Check first half stats. The key time of possession, 19 minutes and 57 seconds for Cincinnati, 10 minutes and 3 seconds for the Dolphins.
And of course, James Brooks has 85 of the 124 yards rushing for Cincinnati.
Lee Johnson kicks it to Mark Logan, who loses the ball. It's a free ball. And Logan very luckily dives on the football. The Dolphins keep possession. Earlier in the game, we talked about Mark playing here in Cincinnati last year. I talked with him yesterday. He said he was going to leave 20 passes for friends and family to come in and watch him. He said he doesn't know if it's going to be good. He doesn't know if it's going to be bad, but he's going to have a good time doing it this afternoon.
Well, Danny's right now struggling a little bit. He 5 for 15, 59 yards and an interception.
So he wants to go back and have another chat with Don Shula.
Looks like they've made some adjustments. Miami could come out in a different formation to get the ball upfield a little bit quicker. They need to get back in the game, score a little bit, and keep their defense off the field.
Starting deep in their own territory from their 10-yard line, it's 1st and 10.
They might be going on top already.
Sammy Smith trying to turn it up, and David Fulcher met him and dropped him. Smith has been banged up since he's been on the ball club, and he's still hurting. He's not at 100%. And if there's one position that you need to be at 100% at, it's running back.
Well, there's a lot of different things that Sammy Smith's responsible for in the Miami Dolphin running attack. He needs to catch the ball out of the backfield. He needs to be able to run inside and outside. And he's got 36 yards in the ground. He needs to do better than that.
On 2nd and 5, Smith over the 15-yard line. Reggie Williams on the stop. Dolphin coach Tony Nathan has made Sammy Smith his personal project. He spends all of his time at practice with him, tutoring him one-on-one, trying to get him initiated into the system.
Well, I think it's an emergency situation for the Miami Dolphins. They need to establish a running game, as I've mentioned time and time again. And Sammy Smith's their guy. He's got to be the guy that's going to do it. They don't have anybody else that's capable of it.
Cincinnati with 6 defensive backs in the game on 3rd and 3. Marino this time does have Troy Stratford out of the backfield, and the Dolphins have a first down. Robert Jackson on the hit for Cincinnati.
Dan Marino in the shotgun formation. Looks off of a receiver to the middle. Makes good yardage upfield.
Last 2 years, the only back in the AFC that caught more passes was Ernest Biner. Troy Stratford, when you need a ball thrown out of the backfield, is a guy that the Dolphins more often than not go to. And on 1st and 10, Marino. Incomplete. Eric Thomas was covering Mark Clayton.
Mark Clayton's a fine receiver, but in those button patterns, the comeback patterns, he needs to catch that ball. That's a big play for them. Marino sees him. It's a nice pattern, but he needs to catch on to the ball. He needs to hold on to it.
In that situation, do you think he heard footsteps?
Well, I don't think he's heard footsteps. I think he was more interested in running with the football before he had his hands on it. See, if you're right here, he tried to turn his head and try to get upfield without the ball. You got to hold on to it, then get upfield.
Moving to the 23-yard line. Uh-oh, look out. That 17-game sackless streak nearly came to an end. Leon White was blitzing Dan Marino. Now, what they told us yesterday is there's a prize. The Bengals have a prize for the first man to sack Dan Marino.
Danny here, receiver going back and just getting rid of the ball. So that 17-game streak stays intact. Here he is looking up his primary receiver. Goes to the side. Once again, it looks like the receiver ran the short pattern.
What White's told us yesterday was that there was a trophy, a prize to the man who sacked Marino, and all the players got very excited. He neglected to tell them it was a 2-inch trophy. He said
I get excited about that.
Anything, any trophy they want. Dolphins are 1 of 6 on 3rd down conversions, and Marino is in trouble. But gets it away, and it's a first down. Good play by Freddie Banks out of Liberty College, going high and hauling it in. Freddie Banks, the veteran out of Liberty College.
It looked like a broken pattern. Dan Marino takes a look back here, takes the ball, and looks his receivers off. Sees Fred Banks on the rollout. Now, this is a broken pattern. Fred Banks came back into a pattern. Marino saw him, threw the ball, and he was open. Broken pattern. That's a nice place by Fred Banks.
18-yard pickup. Dolphins moving 1st and 10 now from their 42. Sammy Smith. Did you see how close Jim Scow came to getting Marino on the last play?
I think that Dan Marino feels that kind of pressure and got rid of the ball purposely.
Well, you have somebody 6'3", 243 pounds chasing you. You feel that. You feel the earth move when they come after you.
Dan takes the ball in a shotgun formation. And he rolls out. Fred Banks ran a broken pattern, came back, and Dan threw him the ball.
On 2nd and 8, over the middle to Stratford, first down.
Same pattern, longer pattern. Ran the pattern a little bit longer this time.
You see David Fulcher there? Did you see right there? David Fulcher gave him an extra arm coming up. Don't come over the middle. This is my ground. comes down to intimidation, Lyle. You played that way.
Never.
What about intimidating an offensive player?
Well, I think the important thing is to try and rattle him. I mean, that's what you're intimidating him for. I mean, to try and destroy his concentration, have him to make mistakes, throw him off sides. If you can do that with somebody who works throughout the whole game.
From the Bengal 45, Sammy Smith. Reggie Williams on the stop, along with Joe Kelly. His father, Joe Sr., played for the LA Rams. Uncle Bob played for both the Bengals and Houston. Good bloodline of football players, the Kellys. There's a Dolphin down on the field. We'll step aside, and when we come back, update his condition.
NBC sports coverage of the National Football League is brought to you by Mitsubishi, bringing you a full line of award-winning automobiles. See them all at your Mitsubishi Motors dealer. By Coors Light, pure brewed in the Rockies, the silver bullet won't slow you down. It's the right beer now. And by the U.S. Army. Learn how to get an edge on life. Be all you can be.
Welcome back to Riverfront Stadium. The injured Dolphin was Ronnie Lee. He's on the sideline now, but does not appear to be seriously injured. Clock running, 10 minutes and 12 seconds to play in the quarter. Dolphins are 2nd and 10. Trying to run before he caught the ball. Troy Stratford couldn't hold on. Seems like they're opening up the Bengal defense now.
Not only that, Dan seems to be throwing the ball a little bit too hard. Here's in a shotgun formation, looks off to one side, goes to his primary receiver. His receivers are dropping the ball an awful lot today.
Is he throwing it too hard?
It doesn't seem so, but you know, I'm not sure, Fred. I mean, I really can't. I'm not down there catching balls, so I don't know. It looks to be, but the receivers also, they've dropped a lot of balls today.
As time. Looking for Duper. He's got it. And he's out of bounds at the 4-yard line.
Once again, they show they can get back in the game so quickly with Dan Marino's arm and that passing formations. It's a nice pattern. Dan obviously wanted to get upfield and get the ball, push the ball to the end zone to get him a big play and a nice catch. Post pattern.
Ran by Ricky Dixon.
Ricky Dixon seems to be out of place here, out of position.
Look at Dan Marino.
Dan looks very happy with that one.
Says, let's go. 1st and goal from the 4. Smith.
This will be a telling tale if they can get this running game going and punch it in the end zone.
Sammy Smith going over right guard, short of the goal line. Other games in progress. Chicago has extended its lead over Houston.
Giants over Washington 6-3.
Atlanta making a game of it. Detroit and Tampa are tied. Minnesota's extended its lead over Green Bay. Sammy Smith hobbled out of the lineup for Miami. We'll keep an eye on him. Nothing doing there. Stratford took the handoff and was stacked up by the middle of the Bengals line.
Notice Cincinnati's defense, how low they are, how they're underneath Miami's offensive line, pushing the line of scrimmage back. So when the back tries to jump over, the line of scrimmage is pushed too far back. Reggie Williams makes a good stop here. Once again, he tries to jump over the line of scrimmage. Cincinnati's defense playing very well, pushing that line of scrimmage back.
3rd and 1. Bootleg for Marino. He's in. Touchdown. You're a Dolphin fan. You held your breath seeing him tuck that ball under and go.
Dan Marino is the Dolphin running attack and the passing attack. Gann obviously thought that he should try and run this in, and there he goes. Roll out, fake into the line of scrimmage, and touchdown. Takes the ball into the line of scrimmage here to hold the linebacker so he can roll out. The pursuit tries to catch him a little bit too late.
Nobody in their right mind thinks Dan Marino will run with the ball.
Wasn't pretty, but he did it.
Stoyanovich. The Dolphins are right back in it. Cincinnati 13, Miami 10. It's been a long time since Dan Marino has seen the end zone while running the ball in. December of '87. What if you're Joe Robbie? Is your heart in your throat when your $1 million quarterback tucks it under?
And goes for the end zone to run the ball himself? I say to myself, self, he deserves a raise. We got a running touchdown.
I mean, let's face it, he's not Joe Kapp. He's not Jim Plunkett. He's not the kind of guy that's going to run you over. He's a finesse passer.
But he's a competitive player, and his competitive drive creates that situation, makes him do that.
He wants it. He wants to win. 14 plays, 92 yards. The Dolphins eating up the clock, 6 minutes and 42 seconds, and they're back in it. It's 13-10. Hillary and Smith are deep. It's Hillary. He wisely elects to down it in the end zone. Some house cleaning duties. Ronnie Lee, who left the game for the Dolphins, we understand he has a bruised back and may return. As for Sammy Smith, we are still checking on his condition. We'll update you.
Interesting note about Boomer Esiason's high school coach, Sal Champy, coached him at East Islip on Long Island, and Sal Champy was my high school coach at Lawrence.
Really?
Yes, he was. As a matter of fact, Sal was one of the most successful coaches in high school football in New York. Created Boomer's foundation. Made him the player he is.
And made you the player you were.
Was.
Thank you. On 1st and 10. Down he goes. Hugh Green records his 4th sack of the season.
Second and 15. Boomer dropping back, looking off his receivers. Hugh comes back after shedding a block. Nice sack. Hugh Green having a good year, having a good game. The big sack. He just threw that back out of the way like he was nothing.
Dolphins' 3rd sack of the ball game. 7:50 to play in the 3rd quarter. It's 13-10. The Bengals leading Miami. He's got Rodney Holman. And Holman decides to take Paul Langford for a ride. Langford is 6'1", 190 pounds. Holman is 6'3", 238 pounds. If you're a defensive back and you see somebody that big coming at you, other than praying, what do you do?
Well, you do exactly what he did here. You sized him up, put him head on, try to take him down. Of course, Fred, knowing if you hit the guy, you'd probably just take the bull by the horns and just throw him to his back.
Or be bopped out of the stadium. 3rd and 4. Brooks in motion. Esiason for Eddie Brown. They're going to flag him. They're going to flag Paul Langford for interference, and he wasn't happy. I think you're going to have to determine if that ball was catchable if it was too high.
Quick pattern by Esiason. Didn't look up for...
That is 3rd down again.
Didn't look off his receiver, and obviously he went right to the pattern to get the ball upfield.
We received word that Sammy Smith has suffered a twisted left ankle and is questionable to return. Offsetting penalties there. So it's 3rd and 4 again from the 26. Brown to the near side of the field. McGee split out wide. He had time and dives very close to a 1st down. Boomer Esiason making something happen.
great advantage always to have a good athlete at quarterback to run like Boomer.
Sam White is irate on the sideline. Very hot over the placement of the ball, the spot. He's saying you should have marked it here. Should have marked it right here.
Has to be a first down.
Still was enough for the first down. By inches. If you're on the sideline and you see them mark that ball,
It certainly looks to be a first down to me. His knee fell right where the first down marker is. And that's where they have to mark it.
still sharing some pearls of wisdom from the sideline. Sam White speaking to Tom Dooley.
What do you think those words are?
Pearls. That's a tough job, though. I was saying, Lyle, spotting the ball for the officials. If it's by your sideline, you never get a break.
Here's Boomer, quite an athlete. Boomer is, as I mentioned before, rolling out of the pocket, getting it upfield. Who said he had a bad ankle?
Instant replay is checking the spot.
We have a reversal. It'll be 4th down on the 29+ yard line.
They went upstairs to instant replay, and the replay official ruled that Esiason did not pick up first down yardage.
You can't tell. I mean, if it's on a machine, it's got to be the truth.
I don't know about that. The angle can be deceiving. You can be fooled by the angle, and it has a lot to do with the position of the camera. But
I think they should leave it up to the referees anyway to make the decision instead of going upstairs.
The ruling is that his knee went down right there. That is where he was down, and that's where the spot of the ball took place. Sam better watch out. Get hit with unsportsmanlike conduct. Lee Johnson will kick it away from the 15. It's Stratford shaking off 3 tacklers, but finally dropped at the 41-yard line. The natives are restless in the jungle. We'll be back.
Long after the game is over, NBC Sports is still on the line. Dial 1-900-226-8000 for NBC Scores Plus. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And coming up here on NBC Sports, the second half of a big doubleheader football Sunday. Some of you will see Indianapolis, the Colts taking on the Denver Broncos. Others will see Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Check local listings for the games in your area, but that's the second half of our doubleheader on NBC Sports this afternoon. Sam White is still not happy about the turn of events. He wants the crowd on their feet. 6:08 to play in the quarter. Marino moving first and 10 from his own 42-yard line.
Hope there's not a noise penalty here.
Marino has the man, and it's complete. The pass to Mark Clayton. You'll remember earlier he had some trouble hauling it in. This time he cradled the ball.
You notice Mark Clayton runs those patterns, and Dan goes right to him. When he throws to Mark Clayton, he doesn't look off any receivers. He goes right to him because Clayton runs specific patterns, precise patterns.
The Bengals have won 12 straight games here at the Jungle. Reggie Williams remembers the days when they used to eat quiche and go to champagne brunch here at the Jungle, one of the quieter stadiums in the league. And since the Bengals have been playing well, the fans have been on their feet. On 2nd and 1, play action. Dumps it off to Davenport for a first down. That's Ron Davenport, 6'2", 232 pounds, out of Louisville.
Dan used that floating pocket to get outside. Had a lot of time. Dolphins offense seems a lot more confident now.
Clock continues to run. 4:50 to play in the third quarter. High formation on 1st and 10. Seemed to be a mix-up on the pattern.
He seemed to throw the ball away.
Duper turned in, and the pass was thrown to the outside. Talking about the Bengal defense, the 11 members of the Bengals defense depth chart all have started the first 5 games at their positions. Each came into the NFL as a Bengals draft choice. 9 came in the first 3 rounds. Tim Crumry, a 10th rounder in '83, and Leon White, a 5th rounder in '86. Good scouting built this Bengal defense. 2nd and 10. The ball carrier was Troy Stratford. Not much luck up the middle. Stratford was the club's leading rusher. When Sammy Smith came on board, they inserted Smith into the starting lineup, and Stratford was relegated to third down situations. But now with Smith on the side with the twisted left ankle, Stratford is seeing more playing time.
Once again, trying to establish that running game with Stratford. They should try and bring him on the outside. Forget about going up in the middle where Crumry is.
On 3rd and 7. A lot of noise. And Clayton couldn't haul it in. Mickey Dixon had him defensively.
Dan in the shotgun formation. Once again, doesn't look off his receivers, and good enough quarterback not to have to do that. Threw the ball a little bit low.
The numbers on Roby.
He looks like he can play offensive guard.
Big. There's a fine kick. High kick. Into the end zone. The Bengals will have a chance to start from their 20-yard line. 3:43 to play in the third quarter. We're still in a tight ball game. Cincinnati will have it when we come back. Mike Tomczak has thrown a 79-yard touchdown pass to Dennis Gentry in the Chicago-Houston game. Darryl Clack filling in for Herschel Walker has scored for Dallas. I think Green Bay took, OJ.
Picked Green Bay to win this week, huh? They're not quite there yet, but they got one of the best offenses in football right now.
The Juice scoring for the underdog.
The Juice.
On 1st and 10, it's Brooks. James Brooks, prior to today's game, had accounted for 29% of the Bengals' total net yards. And the same could be said this afternoon.
He's having a whale of a game, 84 yards on the ground. What moves he's made, though, today.
3 minutes to play. Bengals leading the Dolphins 13-10. 3 minutes in the third quarter, that is.
Bengals have short splits.
Esiason has some running room and wisely slides in. Now, some of the fans wanted a late hit.
No penalty.
Well, let's take a look at it.
Boomer looking out, rolling. Doesn't see his receivers have got good coverage by the Miami Dolphins. Runs. That's not a flagrant hit. That should not be a penalty.
But if the quarterback slides, can the defensive lineman take him down? T.J. Turner there.
At the same time, that's his momentum. This is not two-hand touch. This is professional football. It's called tackle.
Bengals 4 of 8 on third down conversions. Rodney Holman with a reception and a Cincinnati first down. Jarvis Williams on the hit for the Miami Dolphins. That's right, your last statement, Lyle, about this is tackle football, not flag, spoken as a true
I
defensive
certainly
lineman.
think that rules affecting the quarterback play should be thrown out. I mean, the quarterback's going to drop back down and throw the ball. He's going to get hit. That's what the game's about. You don't throw this. Isn't two-hand touch.
But they don't have the protection. Their body.
Oh, please stop. You're going to play this game. That's the end of it. You don't like it, get out.
James Brooks with a reception. You talked about those nifty moves. That picked him up a first down.
Fred, once again, great move. Little juke and go. Little slide and glide. A hole in his soul and a glide in his stride, and he's gone.
What's it mean?
It means he's got great moves, Fred.
Okay. Take a look at him here.
Boomer throws a short over-the-middle pattern to Brooks. Makes that little juke move. He's gone again, and his own man knocks him down in hustling to get to the block. James Brooks, what a day.
Clock running here. We're winding down the end of the third quarter. First and 10 Bengals. This time it's Stanford Jennings. And he was wrapped up by T.J. Turner. Stanford Jennings has done a fine job for this ball club. He is a jack of all trades. He's a running back. He's a kick returner. He can play a little pass receiver. He's the kind of guy you have to have on your ball club. Versatility.
All-around athlete, as Jensen is for the Miami Dolphins.
And, you know, he really hasn't made much of an impact yet, and you look for him to do something, make a big play in the game.
Well, it could be very important going into the fourth quarter with the game so close. They could go to this guy, Jensen, for the big play. He could be a key. He plays a lot of positions, fills in a lot of holes for the Dolphins.
This one is a lot closer than many thought it would be. We have completed 3 quarters of play. The Bengals lead it by 3. Welcome back to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. We are just getting set to start the fourth quarter of play. Fred Rogan along with Lyle Alzado, and the Bengals lead the Dolphins 13-10.
Miami seems to have adjusted some offensive formations to get the ball upfield. And they're back in this game defensively. They're playing very well to shut down the gaps. They seem to have shut down Cincinnati's running game. However, Cincinnati seems to still be in control somewhat.
All right, we'll put you on both sidelines. If you're the Bengals, what are you trying to do?
Well, they need to go back to what made them successful in the first quarter, rolling up all that yardage. Weiss told us specifically yesterday, before this game started, that they would get the ball to James Brooks because he didn't believe any of the linebackers for Miami could cover him. And so far, that's proven to be true.
Here are the numbers through 3 quarters. And the Bengals with a decided advantage running the ball, but passing Marino has now come back, and the Dolphins lead in that category.
Never count Dan out.
2nd and 8 from midfield. Boomer moves James Brooks over. Long ball downtown for Eddie Brown. He overshoots it. You look for Eddie Brown to make a big play. Paul Langford had him defensively. Of the Bengals' 270 yards of offense, James Brooks 84 rushing, 40 receiving. He's compiled 46% of the total offense today. On 3rd and 8. He's in the slot. Completion and a marker on the play. The reception to Tim McGee, but a penalty flag thrown. He threaded the needle with that pass.
Good protection by Cincinnati's offensive line.
But they're going to wave it off, holding against the Bengals.
Maybe that's why it was good protection.
Better protection than it should have been, as a matter of fact.
Pass interference, number 85 offense. 3rd down.
And now they've called offensive interference on McGee. The original signal was holding. They switched to pass interference.
Take a look at Big Anthony Munoz over there. Some interesting note about him. In the offseason, he works with kids. involved in the Cancer Foundation, the Leukemia Society. Just a wonderful human being. Just a great all-pro tackle. Maybe the best offensive tackle to ever play the game out of Southern California. Wonderful man. Nice family man.
Bengals have been penalized 3 times for 24 yards. Now facing a 3rd and 18. Drops it off underneath. Hillary with a reception, but well short of the first down.
Crossing pattern to Hillary underneath the backers. Pattern was run obviously too short, no first down.
Chicago still clinging to a 2-point lead.
The Giants on top of Washington 13-10.
Dallas making a game of it.
Dallas hanging in there for the first time in 6 weeks.
Minnesota with a shot of adrenaline from Herschel Walker. Well on top of Green Bay.
Juice picked Green Bay this week. Where are you, Juice?
Oh, Johnson just got it away. Now let's see where they spot it. Dolphins will have good field position, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Let's take you back, November 20th, 1977. Kenny Anderson handed off, got it back against these very Miami Dolphins at this stadium, going long to Bob Trumpy.
Bob Trumpy, our fellow teammate there.
The last time the Bengals won this game, 23-17, and that's how they won it.
And there's Kenny Anderson and Lapham right there.
Dave Lapham, the man lined up next to the center.
Kenny Anderson. Both handsome young gentlemen with very loud plaid shirts on. Very lovely. Trumpy was a great receiver, but he had very skinny legs. And was not a dancer, Fred.
No, and
defensive
lineman looked at that.
Absolutely.
Get the guy with the skinny legs.
Skinny legs. Get him.
And don't forget, anything could happen in this game. The Bengals haven't won it with Dan Marino in. The Dolphins still very much alive. And with Sammy Smith back in the ball game, the Dolphins are hoping their running game reappears. Apparently, his left ankle has healed or mended well enough for him to return, at least for the moment.
Sammy Smith needs to understand that when you get nicked like that, you can't just come out of the game and wait a quarter to come back. You've got to learn to play with those injuries and get back in there and play. You can't come back in and out of the game. 48 yards, you should have 148 yards.
Well, he's trying, but keep in mind, he reported late, then he got dragged up. And as you point out, though, as a rookie, you've got to play with pain.
You got to play.
On 2nd and 7. Over the middle, he's got a man. Look out. Whoa. Big gain for the Dolphins. Duper was one step away from breaking it. The only thing that stopped him from going all the way was Eric Thomas.
If you notice, Dan Marino, Fred, here doesn't even look off any receivers, goes right to the area. Didn't throw to the receiver, right to the area, and that's one of the reasons why Miami's offense is successful as it is. He's a great pattern, a simple crossing pattern, and he threw to the area, not to the receiver.
Eric Thomas saved a touchdown. There is Sammy Smith trying his way over the left guard and finding no room at all. Jason Buck and Joe Kelly combining on the stop.
One thing I can say about Sammy, he's trying to pound it in. A lot of leg drive, a lot of hustle.
If the Bengals win this game, if they should hold on, and there's a lot of time when Marino has the Dolphins on the move, but if Cincinnati holds on, that play by Eric Thomas will be a very large one indeed.
Watch the splits of Miami's offensive line. If they're close down, he's going to throw the ball. If they're spread wide, they're going to run it.
2nd and 9. Stratford. Troy Stratford down to the 25-yard line. Sullivan Wilcox on the stop.
Watch the big splits from Miami's offensive line. Here it is right here, turning the defensive lineman on the inside with those gaps to let the defensive lineman slide through. Stratford takes the hole, pops it upfield.
They say the running game opens up the passing game, but is the passing game now opening up the running game for the Dolphins?
Could very well be. It seems to be working in that direction. Look at the splits on this offensive line here. Spread wide out.
Tried to dump it over the middle to Ron Davenport. Marino wasn't happy with the effort on that one. Carl Zander had him defensively.
Also threw it a little bit behind him. He's not a happy camper there. Dan is upset at himself to throw the ball behind Sammy.
Marino 12 of 28 for 201 yards this
Doesn't
afternoon.
usually make mistakes like that, Fred.
Can't afford to make mistakes now. 11:52 to play in the game. Bengals by 3. Dolphins 2nd and 10 from the 25. That one's on the money. Again, it's Troy Stratford coming out of the backfield.
Once again, Fred, look how quick those patterns develop, how quickly he releases the ball, how quick his receivers are in position to receive the ball. And now they're holding on to the ball. There's a big difference there.
3rd down and 5 yards to go. Biggest play of the ball game.
On the 20, they're going to go up on top. Splits it wide.
Watch for Jim Jensen in this situation coming out of the backfield. They give us to Jensen. It depends on the spot.
As you mentioned, Fred, in a critical situation, they might go to an athlete like this. 20-yard line, they need to score. Give it to the guy they can count on.
You haven't heard a lot from Jensen this afternoon. And you have to figure now, when the game is on the line,
Miami.
they're going to go to the guy they trust the most.
And that's Jensen. As he's done time and time again for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins take a timeout. So will we. And when we come back, we'll find out if it's field goal or go for it.
NBC sports coverage of the National Football League is brought to you by Coors. Brewery fresh, pure and natural. It's a true American original. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Wendy's old-fashioned hamburgers, the best hamburger in the business.
Back at Riverfront Stadium, you see the men making the decision. Sam White on the left and Don Shula on the right. 4th down, and the Dolphin field goal team is on.
But we should be watching for a fake here.
Pete Stoyanovich with a 34-yard attempt. Hit a 30-yarder earlier in the game. And the rookie from Indiana drills it home.
Stoyanovich. Sounds like a spaghetti. I'll have some spaghetti, the Stoyanovich.
Thanks to the right foot of the rookie out of a tie ball game, 13-13 with 10 minutes and 47 seconds to play in regulation.
Seems like the momentum has seemed to change, Fred. Miami seems to be taking control of this a little bit.
You know, last week Stoyanovich faced a pressure situation. He had to make it, and when he missed that kick at the end of regulation, the special team coach took him off on the sideline and said, don't worry, you're going to win it for us in overtime. And he said afterwards that by making that field goal and having the confidence from his coach, he knew he could face the pressure situation. He also knew he had done well when Don Shula invited him on to the TV show, his TV show on Monday. If you get invited to Don Shula's TV show, don't look at the films. You know you played well.
Well, I would go on his show whether...
Yeah, but when was the last time you were invited onto his show?
You know, it's funny you asked me that because I've never really been invited on his show.
I think he wanted to invite you, but that invitation was lost in the mail.
Lost in the mail.
It happened.
Lost in the snowstorms.
8 plays, 58 yards. They used up 3 minutes and 48 seconds. And to pay off the 33-yard field goal. So 10:47 to play. It's a brand new ball game.
Certainly is, and Miami looks to be the team that's got the momentum. They got the ground game going a little bit. Marino's firing the ball nice.
Kendall Smith over the 20. Ron Davenport put a lick on him. We heard it up here. All right, you're Boomer Esiason, you're Sam White, you're running the Cincinnati offense.
Well, the key to what Cincinnati's done all day long is to go to Brooks, and I think that they'll just start doing that again. Hopefully to control the ball. Boomer's been throwing the ball well, but Brooks is the key guy today. He's got most of the yardage.
Come on!
Gets outside for them, gets inside for them, catch the ball out of the backfield. And again, he's the lone setback.
Don't be surprised to see the Bengals just chew off that clock on the ground, and there is James Brooks. Dave Aarons on the stop for the Dolphins. You might call the Dolphin linebacking core 30-something. Their starters are all 30 or over. E.J. Jr., 30 in December. Dave Aarons, 30. Barry Krause, 32. And Hugh Green, 30.
Hugh Green having an outstanding year.
Green playing because Eric Kumro was injured. Junior playing because Rick Braff was injured.
This Miami defense is playing very, very well today. They've been on the field a long time. Putting pressure on Boomer, covering the gaps very well.
2nd and 3. Brooks. Ooh. Stood up by Brian Soche.
Soche, one of my favorite guys. Picked up a car in a snowstorm, let the guy change a tire, put the car back down, got in his car, and drove on home. What a guy.
Out of Northwest Oklahoma State. A lot of times players that come from smaller schools work harder.
That's not only that, he's like me. He camps out on the edge of reality. Have you ever been camping, Fred?
Not in that campground. Boomer has Rodney Holman. Now, do they pick up first down yardage or not? Paul Langford ran him out of bounds. The fans wanted a late hit.
This Rodney Holman is some ball carrier. Very strong athlete. Very strong legs. Here's Boomer looking right away to Holman. Throws a sort of short out pattern. Nice hit.
Paul Langford, 6'1", 190 out of Penn State University.
Small guy handling a big giant of a man like Holman. Good hit, throws him out of bounds.
The Dolphins hold.
And if you notice the way the Dolphins are hitting right now, they got a little psyche going. In your face.
You use that word momentum.
And Miami seems to have that.
That's Troy Stratford deep for the Dolphins, standing on his own 30-yard line. There's a discussion. Have they gone to instant replay in the spot again? Have they checked upstairs? Here's Tom Dooley. He'll sort it out.
Let the beautiful minute strike the side.
After further review, the play will stand as called. It is 4th down.
Replay took one away from him and then didn't give him that one.
Here it is right here. Nice hit, and he is drug out of bounds. Ooh, no, he's not. It's not a first down.
Lee Johnson kicks it out of bounds. And now it will depend on where the spot is. And the Bengals aren't getting any breaks. Dolphins will have the ball 1st and 10 when we come back.
As you see him being driven out of bounds, Holman tries desperately to drive for the first down, but if you notice where the marker is, his foot steps behind the marker, not in front of the marker, therefore out of bounds.
So the Dolphins take over after Lee Johnson punts it 28 yards. In the second half, the Dolphins have 8 first downs. Cincinnati only 1. They're moving from their own 41-yard line here. Marino over the middle to Stratford. Reggie Williams on the stop for the Bengals. It is important to point out now, and not to put the onus on Dan Marino, but in the last 3 games, Marino has been picked off at least 1 time in the 4th quarter.
Well, you have to understand that the pressure's on Dan to do it. They don't really have a running game to take the pressure off. They know Dan's going to throw the ball. Another note, Cromwell's out of the game. Mike Hammerstein is in the game to give Tim a break.
Inside give. It's Stratford picking up a lot of the load now with Sammy Smith dinged a little bit. And Stratford has first down yardage. There was no way anybody's going to slap that ball out of his hands.
Well, he's really protecting the ball, as you see here. Stratford takes the ball, cradles that baby underneath his arm, wraps his hands around it, and no one's going to grab that ball from him because if they get in good position, they kick the field goal, and this game is a Dolphin game, possibly.
Stratford picks up first down yardage. Clock is running. 7:25 to play in regulation. We're tied at 13 to the Dolphins. Are 1st and 10 from the 48 of Cincinnati. Marino. Oh! Mark Duper. 1 more foot, and he would have been gone.
Nicely run pattern. He looked off to the opposite side of the field. Throws to Dupe. The ball is just a little touch too long. Nice effort by Dupe.
Duper has been struggling a bit this season.
Eric Thomas getting beat pretty badly here for Cincinnati. What a player Duper is, huh? Big play man for Miami.
2nd and 10. Stratford. Jim Scow wrapped him up around the ankle and whipped him down. And there's some pushing and shoving. You see Farrell Edmonds trying to officiate. Jim Scow led the club in sacks last year. Not extremely big, but pound for pound, he might be the strongest member of the Bengal defense.
Watch Cincinnati's offensive line. Their noseman Hammerstein or Tim Carmery is playing off the ball. When they set up on the center, they use what they call an overarm to cover the gap to the opposite side.
Bengals now with 7 defensive backs in on 3rd and 9 from the 47. Marino will work on the shotgun. Long ball. Good grab. Outstanding catch. That man Duper, you talked about him a moment ago, Lyle, and he hauled it in there.
You talk about a clutch play. Here he is right now. Beautifully run pattern. He gets upfield. He knows exactly when Marino's going to throw the ball. Perfectly timed pattern. Duper grabs the ball. Ricky Dixon gets beat. Tremendous play. Here it is right here. Duper ran a nice pattern. Dixon gets nice coverage by Dixon, but yet Duke made a great play. Marino put the ball right where it belonged, right on the button.
129 yards and receptions for Mark Duper this afternoon. 1st and 10 from the 11-yard line. Stratford. And you can start to see the frustration in the Bengal defense. Joe Kelly tried to plant him.
Interesting note for the Cincinnati defense, Kelly is the kind of guy that has an attitude. In the offseason, he takes classes as focal point classes so that he can concentrate. And this guy here has an attitude that might bring this Bengal defense to beat up some people.
They need to do something right now.
Right.
The Dolphins are on the 10-yard line.
Kelly's fired up.
Jensen. He wants to throw. What an athlete. Jensen has thrown a touchdown pass. He has caught a touchdown pass. He has blocked a punt which resulted in a touchdown. You knew he wanted to throw the ball there, but I think the Bengals were looking for it.
Throws a little out pattern to Jensen. Of course, look at this athletic ability. This is tremendous. Of course, he should have held on to the ball a little bit, but he got rid of it, and once again, no sack.
You talk about Mr. Versatility. He's a wide receiver. He's a
Holding, 24 defense.
Oh.
1st down.
Wait a minute. You see Jim Jensen's versatility, fullback, tight end, punt center, and special teams. But the key here, the Bengals have just been called for defensive holding. Lewis Phillips caught holding on the play. So it's an automatic 1st down for the Dolphins. 1st and goal from the 5.
One thing you've noticed, the Miami Dolphins have not made any mental mistakes today. Not a one. One of the great coaches, Don Shula.
Fans on their feet. Davenport. Touchdown. Ron Davenport out of Louisville. Carrying it across the goal line, being mobbed by his teammates, and the Dolphins have the lead. Davenport, a man who fought for a job on the ball club, comes through with a very big
Miami's
play.
offensive line doing a great job of blocking here. Their offensive inside interior offensive guards did a great job at cutting off the linebackers, pursuit to the inside. The hole was there, the touchdown came.
Stojanovic to try the extra point. Wow, the frustration the Bengals must be feeling right now.
They had the momentum the first 2.5 quarters of the game. They've lost it. And I think it's basically because Miami has established that running game all of a sudden, out of nowhere.
Replay may have notified the field now. They may be taking another look at Ron Davenport's effort. Is he in?
Looks like that way to me.
Now it's time to play the waiting game for Sam Weich. He's seen 2 replay calls go against him already this afternoon.
And you see the great coach Don Shula has a nice big smile on his face.
I had difficulty picking up the official. I think he's just alerted the crowd now that instant replay is reviewing the play.
And what do you think they're discussing there now?
What do you think they're discussing up there?
Did you see that, Joe? No, I didn't see that thing. What do you think about that?
Bill Parkinson, the replay official. Lyle, take a look. You're seeing the same view the replay official has.
Nice blocking by the offensive line, as I mentioned, and yes, he does. He gets on. You know, the rule states touch the line, touch the goal line, it's touchdown.
But where were his knees down? I think his knees were down to the 2-yard line and then leaned forward. I think that's what the replay official is looking at.
I think it's a touchdown.
Either way, it's a very long wait for Don Shula and Sam Weich. Let's take another look. Look for his knees.
Well, he's across.
That's tough.
With my x-ray vision, I can see that it's a touchdown.
Another look.
His body's across the line. His head is.
Indisputable evidence. There can be no question about it for replay to overturn a ruling on the field. They're looking at the same replays we're looking at, folks. They're just playing them back on a little tape machine.
I had this x-ray vision. I saw it. It's a touchdown.
Well, you may know something no one else in the stadium knows yet. This is an awfully long review, but it's a very critical play. This has to be the longest time these coaches spend on the field, just waiting.
I'm wondering what the...
After further review, the play will stand as called. Final point.
Inconclusive, the ruling from instant replay. They couldn't determine from the angles, which we all saw. Touchdown, Miami.
As I mentioned, vision, X-ray vision.
Stoyanovich for the extra point.
That's that spaghetti sauce.
An upset in the making. Bengals 7.5-point favorites going in, trail by 7 with 5 minutes and 30 seconds to play in the game.
And Miami has not one offside and one penalty today.
Take another look, Lyle.
Here we go. Miami's offensive line drive blocking, pushing Cincinnati off the line of scrimmage. And there's that bull of a back. Touches the goal line. That is a touchdown.
Miami is 2-0 this season when giving up less than 20 points a game. On the other side of the ball, the Dolphins have done something very, very unusual. They have scored more than 17 points against the Cincinnati defense, and the Bengals have held opponents to 17 or less this season. They were second in the NFL in points allowed, leading them Cleveland.
Fred, take a look at the total yards. In the first half, Cincinnati had 231 to Miami's 95. The second half, Miami's 225 to Cincinnati 60. And there's the momentum change.
Ron Davenport will certainly savor the moment. His first rushing touchdown since 1987.
He did a nice job.
Lyle, another stat to keep in mind as we have a moment, the Dolphins have been outscored in the second half their first 5 games, 89-34 this season. They are taking the game to Cincinnati, making a conscious effort to try and turn that around.
Don Shula football teams, mistake-free football.
Ira Hillary and Kendall Smith are deep. It is Kendall Smith. And he gives the Bengals some breathing room, brings it out to the 28-yard line. $18-yard return for Kendall Smith.
The jungle's a little quiet right now, Fred.
I think the jungle's in a state of shock right now, Lyle. Miami's not a bad football team. Keep in mind, they beat a very good football team last week. Some said it was because Cleveland played poorly. Others said Miami earned that victory, and they're proving this afternoon that they're an improved team. On 1st and 10, Esiason, Coleman former All-American out of Tulane, Rodney Holman, with another reception. Dave Aarons dropping in for Miami. And they go with the attack offense. No huddle.
Remember to watch the split line to the offensive line for Cincinnati. See what they might do.
Of course, in this situation, when they go with the attack, they are not allowed to substitute, nor is the defense allowed to substitute.
Close to the gap, they'll throw the ball. The wider the gap, they're going to run it. Watch for Brooks.
Esiason got it away to Holman. And he's pushed out of bounds. Esiason nearly sacked again. Hugh Green supplying the pressure for the Dolphins.
Hugh Green once again having a good day and having a good season.
What a marvelous story Hugh Green is. After getting banged up with Tampa Bay, some said he would never be the player he once was, but this year he is really putting it all back together.
Absolutely, certainly. He's a leader out there too. He's a guy that helps the younger players, and he's doing a good job.
2nd and 6. Play action for Brooks. Short of the first down.
Once again, pressure on Boomer.
We got a whale of a ball game going here. Elsewhere, how about Chicago, Houston? Only 2 points separating the clubs.
Giants on top of Washington 2017. New England over Atlanta 15-13 in the 4th. Frisco's got Dallas 31-14. Tampa over Detroit 13-10.
Green Bay making a late run. The question is there enough time? 3rd and 2 here. Brooks, the lone setback. James Brooks, I do not think he made it.
Understand, remember those cutback plays. Miami's defense is now settling down, cutting those gaps off, so Brooks can't make those cutback runs and gain that yardage.
Barry Crouch on the stop. He did make it. They gave him the spot of the ball. Now, are the officials ever influenced by what happened earlier in the game in that situation? They're only human beings.
Normally, yeah, absolutely. Normally, there's an indication of what they'll do on certain plays and certain formations, and this is what they're trying to stay with whatever's successful.
Long ball for Esiason. He wanted Mike Martin deep. He wisely overthrew him. William Judson was back there step for step.
Boomer lofted this ball way up. I didn't think that, I believe Boomer thought that receiver was covered. So he threw the ball out away. Threw the ball away.
3 minutes and 49 seconds to play in regulation. You see the clock at 2nd and 10 from midfield. Bengals are down by 7. For McGee, and Judson was right on him. Good defense. 6'1", 192 pounds. He was selected in the 8th round of 1981. William Judson out of South Carolina State.
William Judson does a nice job here covering McGee. Ball was thrown a little higher. You know, Boomer seems to be pushing the ball a little bit. He might have thrown a little bit lower, a little bit smoother.
You mean he's guiding the ball?
Well, not only that, he's trying to guide the ball, but he seems to be under pressure. He's trying to force it a little bit.
Big play, 3rd and 10. He has time. He wants Eddie Brown. William Judson defensively.
Tremendous play by William Judson. Boomer going, pushing this ball upfield. William Judson all over. Tremendous defensive effort, tremendous play.
They're running right at William Judson. He has been equal to the test each time.
Those are the kind of guys you have to count on to come up with the big plays in tight situations like this. And William Judson has done it time and time again in the 4th quarter.
3:35 to play. The Bengals are forced to kick the ball away. The left-footed Lee Johnson. High kick. Fair catch called for. And Stratford makes the grab at the 14-yard line. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
WKEF-TV, Channel 22.
Fred Rogan and Lyle Alzado at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. We have a dandy going. Miami leading Cincinnati 20-13, 3:27 to play in regulation. And you see Boomer Esiason, who's just come off the field, hobbling more than he has throughout the afternoon.
We came into the game wondering, Fred, what would Miami Dolphins do if they couldn't establish a running game? It would put them in jeopardy of losing the game. They could not establish the game in the first half. Second half, they came out and did just that, got the running game going, opened up the passing game for Marino, and right now, they're leading the game, 2013.
Davenport, who scored the go-ahead touchdown for the Dolphins. Not much running room inside. And now it's the Dolphins that will practice that ball control offense.
And hoping that their running game is that they've established this last quarter here will continue.
While the Dolphins have 2 timeout remainings, the Bengals 3. What time would be a good time for the Bengals to start using timeouts?
It just depends on the formation that Don wants to come up with, what he wants to do, what he feels is necessary to keep the ball on Miami's side.
Second down and 8.
Obviously, he'll keep the ball on the ground.
Stratford, whoa. And did you see David Fulcher try to rip that ball out of his arms? Bengals are going to call their first timeout. Two minutes and 37 seconds to play. The Dolphins now face a 3rd and 7, and Boomer Esiason, Stanford Jennings, the offensive unit, wants back on the field now.
Critical time for the Cincinnati Bengals. They need to come up with something to get the ball back so that Boomer and his people have time to get the ball down the field.
The entire defensive unit is now huddled around Sam Wyche on the sideline.
The problem remains,
coordinator Dick LeBeau.
Right, Fred, the problem remains that Boomer and his club realizes that the Miami Dolphins defensive team has the momentum. They're putting pressure on Boomer. They're covering well. William Justin came up with 2 great defensive plays in defensive backfield today on this 4th quarter. And I think they realize that the momentum's on Miami's side. They're going to have to come up with something. It looks to me like they're going to keep the ball on the ground.
3rd down, 7 yards to go. 2 minutes and 37 seconds to play in regulation. Miami is leading Cincinnati 20-13.
Be very aware of the splits for Miami's offensive line. It can tell you what they're going to do.
The pass is complete and a first down and much more. Clayton stays on his feet, still on his feet. What a big play for Mark Clayton. Nearly out to midfield. Robert Jackson brought him down. Marino says yes. And the Dolphins get out of a hole.
Duper and Clayton, 2 big guys that Marino goes to. Here's Marino, shotgun formation, floating pocket, gets Marino outside the pocket, keeps the pressure off him, and of course, Clayton makes a great play, gets upfield, tremendous spin, breaking tackles, bam, bam, boom, ba-boom, boom, upfield.
30-yard pass play, Dan Marino's reaction.
You know, anytime Dan's successful, he's very happy. He's a very competitive athlete. When he makes mistakes, he gets very annoyed, as, well, you do, Fred.
The fans are headed for the exits in Cincinnati.
The jungle is closing down.
Lyle and I live in Los Angeles. This is what happens usually at halftime of most games.
First quarter.
People head for the exit of.
All right, let's go surfing.
This has to be considered a major upset, Lyle. The Bengals came in. They had a winning streak at home, won 12 straight at the Jungle.
Well, I think it's important to note that Miami seems to be inconsistent, but last week they played very well. Only gave up 10 points, and this week, again, giving up only 13.
2 minutes and 17 seconds to play. First and 10 from the 49. Troy Stratford. Room around the right side. That'll kill the clock. He's out of bounds.
Still plenty of time, Fred. 2:11. Cincinnati get the ball back. And, you know, Cincinnati's offense is very explosive.
Lyle, you have been on the field much like the Cincinnati Bengal players, desperate to get the ball back and time running out. What are they saying in the huddle? What are you doing?
Well, the most important thing an athlete has to think of when he's playing on defense like that and the time is running out and they're running the ball on the ground is to tackle the ball, trying to pull the ball out, create a turnover, give the ball back to your offense so they can get a chance to score.
2:11 to play. 1st and 10 from the 39. Stratford. And the Dolphins' goal here, other than chewing the clock up, is to get into field goal position, which will pretty much put this one out of reach.
Absolutely, Fred.
Timeout, Cincinnati. Their 3rd and final charge team timeout.
Bengals are out of timeouts.
A 40-second timeout.
That could be a problem for them, considering they're going to get the ball back. With no timeouts, they're going to really have to, they could possibly use the hurry-up offense. No huddle.
But more importantly than getting the ball back with no timeouts is getting the ball back, period, stopping the Dolphins.
Absolutely. And they're going to have to tackle the ball and make it, someone's going to have to create a turnover.
I mean, Miami is moving at will here. There was a big pass pattern, of course, but still they're able to chew up 5 yards, 6 yards on the ground of plays.
It's pretty interesting how the Miami Dolphins have loosened up the running game. That passing game, obviously, usually it's the other way around. The passing game has loosened up the running game, and now since the middle of the 3rd quarter, Miami's running game has done very well.
Late games underway. No score in most of them. They're just getting started, and we are just winding up here. Don Shula,
one of
and
the great
Dolphins
coaches,
trying to make it 2 in a row. Sam White's digging in.
He's ready to play.
2nd and 5 for Miami on the 34-yard line. I formation behind Marino. Stratford. He doesn't have the 1st down, and that brings us to the 2-minute warning.
Stratford's certainly running the ball very well for Miami.
2 minutes to play. The Dolphins lead by 7. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League and is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Bengals and the National Football League is prohibited. This game is the property of the National Football League, Cincinnati Bengals, and Miami Dolphins. All rights reserved. Pete Stoyanovich, the man that will have the deciding boot in this one. If he were to kick a field goal right now, it would be a 49-yarder. He is 1 of 4 from 40 to 49 yards this season. 43 yards is the longest one he's had. He faced pressure last week and came through at the end. But you have to wonder what's running through his mind now.
He's probably thinking to himself, I better kick this one straight through.
Or move the ball up.
Thank you, Ollie.
3rd and 3. If the Bengals ever needed to hold somebody, it's right here, right now. Stratford. 1st down, Miami. Our producer today for NBC Sports, Kenneth Roy Edmondson. Our director is Ned Tate. Our spotters up in the booth, Bill Schwarzberg and Doug Kidd. On stats today, Bruce Schneider. We thank everybody for a fine job.
Interesting blocking scheme for the Miami Dolphins in that one, this last play for a 1st down, cross blocking on the inside. Pulled that center back around, knocked down the nose tackle and went right up for the 1st down. It's unusual blocking.
Bengals can't stop the clock. It's running. Miami 1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. And that's all Dan Marino has to do. Now it's time for the Most Valuable Player Award, sponsored by Budweiser. Today's MVP, Dan Marino from the Miami Dolphins. And Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVPs selected in today's game. An uplifting victory for Miami.
It certainly is a well-needed win for the Miami Dolphins. To beat a team of this quality and this depth is a star on their helmet, so to speak. I think that they'll come out of this game with a great deal more confidence. Don Shula looks very happy and could do a lot for this team.
And of course, that's the exclamation mark. The Dolphins are competitive, and they are getting over the stage of having to continuously rebuild.
I think the rebuilding process is just a few players away.
They're playing a lot more consistent defense, and that's the key. Their offense is already there.
Dan Marino and Boomer Esiason congratulating each other. On the other side of the ball, the Cincinnati Bengals suffer a painful loss.
Well, they end up 4-2 and tied for the division lead now.
Once again, the final score, the Miami Dolphins 13, the Cincinnati Bengals 20, Dolphins 20, Bengals 13. In a moment, we'll review the action in today's game. Our final score, the Dolphins 20, the Cincinnati Bengals 13. Thanks to a big second half by Dan Marino and the Miami offense, the Dolphins move to 3.